Showtime. I can have your attention. Thanks for coming and welcome to the March 28th, 2024 meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. At this point, I'd like to call on opening announcements.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and planning department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
Thank you. Could we now have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Dool.
Here.
Foster.
Here.
McKay.
Here.
Fry.
Present.
Bill Johnson.
Here.
Josh Blick is absent. Hugh Nix is absent. Fox.
Here.
Warren.
Here.
Joe Johnson.
Here.
Miles.
Present.
Zimbelman. Aldridge.
Here.
Williams Bay.
Here.
Sorry, I showed 12 members present and 2 absent.
Thank you. Now we'll call for approval of the prior MAPC meeting minutes on March 14, 2024. I show absent at that meeting was Nix, Fox, Warren, and Miles.
Move to approve.
Second.
And
I'd like
Fox
to
has
make a couple corrections.
correction.
Paragraph 1, the date need to be corrected to March 14th. On page 2, item K, there's an incorrect email address for Greg Sheeran. And page 9, I'm noted as making a motion, but I was not present, so it needs to be corrected. I assume it was Foster, but I'm sure that can be checked. Thank you.
We have a motion by
Motion to approve as revised by
with
Chair.
corrections.
And second as corrected.
Who seconded it? Okay, Joe Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Abstain.
Abstain.
Right. We show the people that weren't there, Nix, Fox, Warren, and Miles. Okay, we'll take now items that we can take on consent. There's no BZA cases today, so we will move on to subdivision committee recommendations. 2.1 is sub 2024-0009, and that is located at East Central and North Washington Avenue. Does anyone on the commission want to hear that case? Is there anyone present from the public that wants to hear that case? If not, we'll take that on consent. Next, item 2.2, sub 2024-00010, located near South Rock Road and east of 47th Street South. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? If not, we'll take it on consent. Next, we have item 2.3, sub 2024-00011, and that is located near West Maple Street and South Tyler Road. Is there anyone on the commission that wants to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? If not, we'll take that on consent.
Move to approve items 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 per committee and staff recommendations.
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion by Fox and a second by Miles. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Moving on to public hearing vacation items. Item 3.1 is deferred, so we won't hear that. Item 3.2 is vacation 2024-00010, located near Central and North Armor Drive. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? We'll take that one on consent. Next is item 3.3, vacation 2024-00011, and that is located near K42 and South Hoover Road. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? We'll take that on consent. Do I have a motion to approve 3.2, 3.3?
Approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams Bay and second by Ms. Foster. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now we're going to take the public hearing cases. First, we have 4.1, which is a zoning 2024-00006. And that is located near 45th Street North and 167th Street West in the Colwich area of influence. We have heard this case and it was deferred to today. Does anyone on the commission want to hear that case?
I think because it was deferred, we should hear it.
We'll have an update from the agent. There was some information they needed to provide to the planning commission, so we'll
Right.
need to hear this case.
Okay, we'll hear that case. The next case, item 4.2, I'm going to skip for the minute because I'm going to abstain on that. It involves the applicant as a Candle Club, and I'm going to abstain because I'm a member of the Candle Club. And there may be other members, I don't know.
Well, then I will have to abstain as well, because I am a member of the Candle Club.
Okay.
I am not a member of the Candle Club.
We can help
All
with
right.
that.
We can still find out whether we're going to hear it or not. though.
Yes, but I want to take it separately because we will entertain a motion to approve everything collectively that we want to abstain. Then we'll come back to this one. So item 4.3, recommend denial. So we will hear that case. Item 4.4 is the CUP 2024-00004, located on East 13th Street and North Oliver. Is there anyone from the commission that wants to hear that case?
I'd like to hear that case.
Okay, we'll hear that case. Next is item 4.5, and that is recommended for denial. So we will hear that case. Next, we have item 4.6, zone 2024-00011. And I'd like to call on staff and legal counsel before we consent to this case.
Yes, there was some information regarding the application that staff was under review, and we consulted with legal, and it's been determined that this case needs to be deferred indefinitely until we can get some of that application information cleared up, and then we'll re-advertise the case for a future hearing date.
We need to vote
we'll
on it.
Take that on consent, but we will,
It's just deferred, so we won't take any action on it.
no action required. Okay. Next item is 4.7. It's zone 2024-00012, and that is on the near Oak Street and West Douglas. Does anyone on the commission want to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that wants to hear that case?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll hear that case. And next is 4.8, zone 2024-00013, and that is located near Lorraine Avenue and East 2nd Street North. Does anyone on the commission want to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that wants to hear that case?
Yes, please.
Okay, we will hear that case. Can we have a motion to approve by consent?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I think just because you're a member of a club should not deny you the right to vote on it. You don't own it.
We discussed that, and that could well be the case, but I have just chosen on this case to make it clear that I'm going to abstain on this.
Okay.
That's my prerogative. So anyway, we will go back to case 4.2.
That's what we're gonna find out.
We're going to find out, right. So does anyone on the commission want to hear case 4.2? Okay, is there anyone from the public here that would like to hear case 4.2? This involves a request for conditional use located at 13th Street and North Woodlawn. Anyone from the public want to hear that? Okay, then we will call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed?
need a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve agenda item number 4.2.
And I'll second it.
Okay, I guess we need to do that. We've got a motion by Ms. Miles and a second by Mr. Joe Johnson. So now, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Abstaining, two of us. Okay. I think then that takes us back to 4.1. Do we have a staff report, please?
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. My name is Brad Etherly, Senior Planner for the MAPD. Today we are here to revisit Zone 2024-0006, a zone change request located on the northeast corner of West 45th Street North and North 167th Street West, which is in the Colwich area of influence. Once again, we are rehearing this case because it was deferred on March 14th until the applicant could get some more information about water resources and sewage resources. And so I won't go into every detail like I did 2 weeks ago, but I will kind of give a brief overview. This is a 38.6 acre property that is located on the northeast corner of West 45th Street North and North 167th Street West. It is currently in use as agricultural land, and the applicant is proposing to develop the property as a low-density residential neighborhood. The character of the neighborhood is rural and low-density residential. Properties to the north, south, east, and west are all zoned RR, rural residential, and they're all developed with single-family residences or agricultural land. The requested zone change is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The map in the Community Investments Plan identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for small city urban growth area. As such, staff has taken a look at the 2017 Future Community Growth Patterns map from the City of Colwich's Planning Department and identifies the site as appropriate for low-density, single-family residential development. I will note that the City of Colwich did provide information, which is in front of you, and we also have received other letters of public comment that are in front of you as well. Planning staff does recommend that the request be approved, and this is based off the golden rules. And with that, I can stand for any questions, and the applicant's agent is also here.
Are there any questions from the commission on this? Any questions of staff? If not, we'll, yes, but.
One of the questions for the city of Colwich was, would that be available for city water from Colwich? And so was that question ever answered?
I think the applicant's agent would be able to answer that question for you.
Okay, thank you. Now call on the agent or applicant. You will have 10 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, Phil Meyer with Boffman Company, 315 Ellis, agent for the applicant. With me here today is Evan Brand with Vision Homes, who is the applicant on this, if you have specific questions of him. We also have the honor of having Terry Nicholson, who is the mayor of Colwich here. If you have specific questions for her that I don't answer clearly enough in my presentation, she'll be glad to come up and talk to you about this. So last time this was here, my opinion, we had questions on water supply, drainage, the density we were trying to do, and traffic concerns of this size of this subdivision. So with that, I would tell you, and we've passed out a letter. So we went out and did some tests on water quantity and quality that was out there. Winiger Drilling, who's the same company that did the testing on that other site Planning Commission was bringing up last time, went out there and did a test, 3 test holes. He believes there is plenty of water available to serve this property with wells, and won't have any concerns with that. And I'll be glad, the letter, I believe, was distributed to the Planning Commissioner, so I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have about that letter if you do. We did explore, and there was a meeting with the City of Colwich, between the applicant and the City of Colwich about extending water. Water is available. It's more of an economic issue. So the city's not in a position where they can extend the water that far. The applicant's not in a position where they can afford to do that on a subdivision of this size for the extent we have, for the length we have to extend that sewer. So I know the applicant's not opposed to water at a later date, but we believe we're just gonna have to wait till the natural development brings that water line closer to this property to serve it. So we would like to approve it today with the intention of doing water wells on it. Drainage, we will be required to do detention on this facility. Drainage we will address during the plating process. But with that, we will have to provide detention on this property. There is floodplain on this property, which is going to require compensatory storage. What we will be doing is making sure that we're detaining the difference between the pre and post development before we release it across the street to the west. So is the person to the west going to see an increase on them? No, but I'll be honest with you, there's so much floodplain on the west side of 167th, they're not going to feel any impact, negative or positive, from this development. But we will not create any additional burden. That's not there now. The density, and this is my opinion, my personal opinion, but I was always under the impression 10, 15 years ago, before the recession, the county was pushing to get more dense suburban development. And, you know, we're proposing 27 lots on this 38.5 acres with a paved road on 167th. There was a point where the county wanted to see us get to these 1 acre lots, 1 to 2 acre lots more, and quit doing 5 acre lots, because they would rather see us get 27 lots on 38.5 acres than they would rather see us get 27 lots on 135 acres. It's just spread out more. So I believe we're following the guidelines of what Sedgwick County was looking to do with developments, and most specifically when we have a subdivision, potential subdivision that has a paved road, which 167th is. So we discussed the paving 167th, which is key. On-site sewer, you have to have a minimum of a 1 acre lot to do an on-site sewer. We're proposing using Sedgwick County's alternative sewer system. I'll throw him under the bus a little bit, but Kelly Dixon's here today. So if you have specific questions on the alternative sewer systems and how they operate, I bet you'd be willing to take a swing at that for you. So With that, I'm going to stop and answer any questions you may have.
First, I'd like to ask a question of staff. When we deferred this case, it was deferred for the reasons of checking for groundwater testing and the possibility of either city or rural water being brought in, right? And, well, as we go into further future comments from anyone, we want to confine ourselves to the items that we brought in because we've already heard this case once. Yes, Mr. Aldridge.
Yeah, you pretty much covered what the planning commission requested. One of the things I want to say, first of all, I want to thank you guys for actually doing and supplying the information that we requested. The drilling was very, very important. One of the major concerns was the water. Regarding the density, was more so because of the water supply. I think that's been answered satisfactory based on the information that we received. I would like to find out a little bit more regarding the alternate sewer, just for my own education on that. But with the drainage and everything else that we asked, I think there's about 4 different concerns that we had, and it strongly appears that that information was supplied to us. And again, I want to thank the agent, the applicant, for actually doing that. Appreciate it.
Do we have any other questions from the commission?
I'd like to follow up with Bob's request on more about the sewer thing. We have a member of the staff here that can tell you.
Right. Is that a question for the agent or for staff? Okay.
Okay, Kelly, looks like you're up.
Please state your name and address for the record, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kelly Dixon, Metropolitan Area Building and Construction. What kind of question do you have about the alternatives?
Can you explain a little bit how it operates and?
Yes. So the advanced system, the advanced septic system, is basically an on-site wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater is treated at the tank with the addition of oxygen to create an aerobic environment, where we are basically cleaning up that effluent to a 90 to 95% clean, at least of bacteria. Now, it doesn't have any effect on the viruses. Once that water then goes out, it goes out in a pressurized lateral system, we'll call it. We typically use drip systems that are time dosed so that they allow the water to go into the ground and up through the plants. We time dose those maybe to run 5 or 10 minutes an hour, 24 hours a day, as opposed to just a flush and push. That allows us to put septic systems in heavy clay soils where they want to do smaller lot development instead of 3 to 5 acres for lagoons.
And what happens in the event of a power outage?
The upside to this particular situation is they will not have water either, because they're on wells, which are run by electricity, which means that nothing is going to work. No water in, no water out.
So what you're saying is that it's not going to flow downhill, it's just going to stop.
Right.
And
Thank you.
Kelly, those systems can be sized to different size homes, because I think the lagoons are sized by the number of bedrooms, so you can
All
size up
wastewater systems are designed to the number of bedrooms and the soil conditions. We have not done, I don't believe, soils work on this particular site, but it's pretty well presumed that it's going to be a heavy clay soil, so these would be the option. Otherwise, they would have to go to bigger lots for lagoons.
Ms. Foster.
So what's the minimum lot size that these systems are effective on?
Well, they're on any lot size, but we don't allow on-site wastewater on anything less than an acre.
And they're effective on an acre lot
Oh,
size?
absolutely.
Okay,
The
thank you.
system was actually designed back in the 50s for Navy ships to clean up their waste before they dumped it in the ocean.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the applicant or the agent? Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this issue? Please approach the podium and give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. And since we've heard this case already and it was deferred, please confine your comments to the issues that we're talking about today. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Randall Bullinger, and my address is 16701 West 48th Street, Circle North. It's lot 7 of the Harry Simon edition, this lot right here. And a lot of the questions that I had were in regard to the water. Some of those have been answered, that the city of Colwich is not bringing water down there currently. Now, a lot of the comments from the Colwich City Commission meeting the other night was they were discussing how they could later on access and force residents of this area to pay to hook up to their water, even though they all have wells and some of those things. So that came up. But not going into that, some of my questions were is on this alternative sewer system, and I don't understand it, but how dense of an area can you have that many? And I guess it's 27. I mean, we hear all kinds of different plotting, but 27. Can you have 27 of those, 27 wells, and is there any issue with potential contamination of the groundwater, not only for the people in that area, but for those of us that are also on wells to the north? So that's part of the questions that I have regarding, you know, how many of those things can you have? How far does the well have to be from the homes? How far do wells and the septic systems have to be from the homes and apart from each other, I guess. So some open questions there. Let's see. Some of the other things that I have a concern about, and I know this forum isn't about runoff and flooding. That's not part of zoning, but in terms of the public health and safety golden rule, there, and I think we talked about this last time, there's a significant amount of water that flows from the east side of Colwich and flows through this property. And since there's such a large portion of this property in the floodplain, that still is a concern on the public health and safety issue for those of us up there. So, and I think those are the key questions that I still had or have is you know, what's going to happen to residents once the Colwich City brings water and things down there, the cost to those residents of having to put these systems in, because I'm not sure what they cost in association with other sewer systems, as well as having to put in a well and then put in then hook up to city water when it comes down there. So only other question I had in regard to the next meeting or the next step here on the Citizens Advisory Board. I was curious when that meeting is. We've been communicated in writing, 2 different locations and 2 different times. So I would like to ask where that meeting is going to be. So.
Thank you for your testimony. With regard to stormwater drainage, in the process of getting this platted and through the city's inspection, those issues will be addressed.
Okay.
Do we have anybody else who would like to speak on this issue or any questions?
Kelly again to answer.
Well, they'll get a chance for rebuttal. I'll let them do it. Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, sir.
My name is Robert Halberg, and I live at 16501 West 48th Street North, Circle, Colwich, Kansas, which is this piece of property right here. We've heard a lot of talk about 1 to 2 acres. Some say 1, some say 2, some say both. But I think it's important to find out, is it gonna be one or is it gonna be two? What's it gonna be for sure? The other thing is a lot of talk about water. Well, you know, we've been in drought for the last 2 years. Yes, there is water in this area, but outside this area, not so much. We just had a brand new pivot put in to the east. So, you know, I would like these, you know, just to consider future of putting this many wells in one location. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this case at this time? Please give us your name and address, sir, and you'll have 3 minutes. And please confine your comments to the issues that we're talking about today.
Hi, my name is Monty Montgomery. I live at 165-110 West 48th Street North Circle, which is this property right here. My first order of business is I'd like to correct the record for what I stated at the last meeting, that I was not didn't get the announcement for the meeting letter when I went home that evening. My wife produced that. So I spoke in error, and I would like to correct the record on that. Because I don't get the mail, she does. As far as the plotting of this particular plot right here and the rezoning, if somebody could scroll that down between the city of Colwich and that property, there is maybe 5 houses. I moved to this area to watch farm implements run around tilling ground. I didn't move to an area to look at houses. I left an area to look at roofs and houses and people. And I believe that a 2-acre plot, which it currently is plenty enough development for that area, considering everything else is at least 5 plumb around the whole situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public present that would like to speak on this case? Excuse me, go ahead. Please give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, and please confine your comments to the issues we're talking about today, specifically the water issue.
So I'm Margaret Seiler. I actually am at 15310 East Maple Grove, but I'm here on behalf of Legacy Bank. And as far as the water, I mean, it was shown that there is water there, so I'm not sure. We need housing in Colwich in order to keep that town growing. And with the floodplain issues, as long as they can make sure with the development plans that it would work, that is one of the only areas that they have right around there that could be developed into these. And I know specifically several people in the Colwich area with an interest of having that 1 acre to 1.5 acre plot in order to move and keep their families there instead of moving away from this town. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this case? Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Gerard Eck. I'm at 453 South 5th Street in Colwich. And regarding the water issues of the property, I think, you know, there's should be ample trust in the engineering that they can make it work. They've done the tests and proved it. I know that these opportunities to grow the Colwich population are becoming rare, and I think we should take advantage of this opportunity to have a nicer neighborhood in the Colwich area of influence.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else from the public that would like to speak at this time? If not, I'll bring it back to the agent. Mr. Aldridge? No, we're going to bring it back to the agent or applicant, and they will have 2 minutes for a rebuttal.
Phil Meyer with Baughman Company. I will remind you that I have Evan Brand here with me as the applicant and Terry Nicholson as the mayor of Colwich. If you have specific questions for them, they can come back. I don't know that I have a rebuttal. Couple answers that I can give you, or I can try to address some concerns that were brought up by neighbors. This particular area, my personal opinion, has got plenty of water, and water's not going to be an issue. We took the soil reports, the drilling reports we got from Winiger, showed it to one of the geologists that we work with a lot in this town, and he told us there wouldn't be a problem. I live out west myself, West Wichita, urban development. Every lot out there's got an irrigation well on it. I mean, we've never run shy on water, and that's pretty much true in most of Sedgwick County, west Sedgwick County when you get out there by the aquifers, but there hasn't been an issue. Question was brought up, are we doing 1 or 2 acre lots? Probably a variety. If you're gonna ask me what's the number, I'm gonna tell you 1 acre. Now, we'll have some that will be larger. We're gonna have a variety in there, but 1 acre is the smallest lot we can do. And we have found over the years, when you have these 5 acre developments, people take care of about 1 acre and the rest just goes natural. And so there's more today, there's more people just putting in a 1 acre lot, but we're gonna have a variety is the answer that we're planning on doing. With that, I'll stop and answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the commission of the agent? Mr. McKay? Oh.
I think there was a question about the next steps, based on our recommendation, the county, is there going to be a citizens advisory board meeting? Do we know that, or can we clarify that?
Call on staff
Yes,
for that.
the Citizen Advisory Board for County District 3 is going to take place on Monday, April 1st at the Goddard Conference Center off of, it's like 315 South Main in Goddard at 7 p.m.
If there are no other questions or comments, I'll bring it back to the staff. Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on this? Ms. Foster?
I'd like to ask Kelly Dixon to come up again and respond to the questions about density of wells and the distance between wells and sewer systems. Thank you.
Hi, it's me again, Kelly with Metropolitan Area Building Construction. I believe the concerns were, what are the setbacks right off the bat? Water wells are required to be no less than 50 feet from any part of a wastewater system. And that would be, the wastewater system has to be 50 feet from any adjacent wells. That's an industry standard to make sure that we're in a safe zone, that we're not having a negative effect on the water well and the water supply. One of the upsides to the advanced wastewater system, as opposed to a standard septic, is we are cleaning up the effluent before it goes out. So it only needs a couple feet of soil to remove the remaining bacteria and viruses. So we can have this kind of density and not have any negative effect on the water supply. And that's kind of our whole purpose, is protecting our water supply.
Thank you very much. That's reassuring.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion from the commission on this case?
I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. McKay and a second by
Yeah, we did.
Joe Johnson. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterating what I just said earlier, that there was a couple of specific items that we requested that the applicant bring back to the commission. They did that, and again, I'm grateful and thank you for doing that. And I will also be supporting the motion.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay. The next item we have is item 4.3 by my recollection. We did get an amended staff report on this that was emailed out to us. Did everyone get that? Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christina Reed with planning staff. The applicant for Con 2024-00011 has two requests. The first is to permit mining or quarrying, also known as sand or soil extraction, and a conditional use to permit rock crushing. The subject site is zoned limited industrial. It's in unincorporated Sedgwick County on the west side of Southwest Street within 1/4 mile north of West 47th Street South. The applicant is filing these requests for the extraction of soil and crushing of concrete for recycled construction materials to be used for the West Street Road reconstruction and other projects. So both mining and quarrying and rock crushing, those are separate uses that are both permitted in limited industrial zoning with a conditional use approval. Mining or quarrying has their own set of supplementary use regulations found in Section 3 of the Unified Zoning Code, and those are attached to the end of your report. Rock crushing is not subject to additional supplementary use regulations. So if we could go to the site plan, please, so I can discuss it a little bit. Okay, so according to the site plan submitted by the applicant, the soil extraction area shall occur on 16 acres within the subject site over the course of 10 years. Historic aerial maps show that the topsoil has already been removed from that site. The applicant proposes a continuous fence around the perimeter of the soil extraction area. The distance between the property lines and the area of soil extraction is 150 feet from the east, 100 feet from the north, 150 feet from the west, and 350 feet from the south. Additional screening will be provided by the applicant on the eastern property line, and this is because of the Section 4 of the Unified Zoning Code, which requires screening for commercial or industrial uses when abutting residential zoning. Access to the rock crushing area shall be from an existing driveway off Southwest Street. And then rock crushing and storage shall be on the south side of the property. So the reason we're seeing 350 feet is because the southern portion of the site, they are proposing to dedicate for rock crushing. The site plan does not indicate parking, but Section 4 of the Unified Zoning Code requires 1 parking space per employee for both rock crushing and mining or quarrying operations. Tybin, could we please go to the zoning map? Thank you. The character of the neighborhood is industrial on the west side of Southwest Street. So everything you see here in light purple, that is zoned LI, limited industrial. So property to the north is zoned limited industrial and developed with a truck dealership. Property to the south is zoned limited industrial and is developed with a maintenance yard for Sedgwick County. Properties to the east here. So in orange, we see that is zoned manufactured housing, and so that is for manufactured housing development. And then everything you see in yellow, that is zoned TF3 two-family residential zoning, and those are developed with duplexes. And then, so then property to the west is also zoned limited industrial and is developed with the Kansas and Oklahoma Railroad. This property is unplatted, and platting is not required for the commencement of sand or soil extraction or rock crushing. There are no zoning cases associated with this property. This site has access to Southwest Street, which is a 2-lane county arterial street with open ditches. So the requested conditional uses are not in conformance with the community investments plan. when we take a look at the 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map, it identifies the area to be appropriate for what we call new employment and then new residential / employment mix uses. So the definitions are here in your report, but I will skip to say new residential / employment mix is defined as areas of land that will likely be developed or redeveloped by 2035 with uses predominantly of mixed nature. Due to the proximity of higher intensity business uses, residential housing types within this area likely will be higher density. And due to the proximity of residential uses, employment uses will have limited negative impacts associated with noise, hazardous emissions, visual blight, and odor. So the subject site is adjacent to existing residential uses across Southwest Street. So it is staff's opinion that the requested conditional uses could have significant negative impacts on the nearby single-family, two-family manufactured housing residences, which include noise, dust, and visual impact. The community investment plan's locational guidelines state that industrial and major commercial land uses that generate pollution, odor, noise, safety, hazards, light, and high levels of traffic should be located away from existing residential areas and developed with screening, buffering, and site design features sufficient to mitigate these adverse impacts. While the applicant is proposing screening and a 150-foot buffer between the property line and soil extraction, we're still, struggling with the proximity of the use to the adjacent residential development and with the associated significant negative impacts. So for this staff report, you see in the corrected staff report that there are two separate recommendations. One is for mining or quarrying and one is for rock crushing. So it is in staff's opinion that based on the information available prior to the public hearings, planning staff recommends that the conditional use request for mining and quarrying be denied, and the conditional use request for rock crushing be denied. This recommendation we combined into just one set of golden rules, which are explained in your staff report here. So at the time of the publication of the staff report, I did receive some emails from nearby residents who expressed concerns with the possible runoff associated with the requested conditional uses. Those are attached to the end of this report. And then on Monday, I submitted additional comment to the commissioners via email. And then after Monday, and between Monday and this morning, I received additional comment for this case. Those were printed out and distributed to you guys before the meeting. So there are two separate recommendations should the commission adopt additional findings and recommend approval for mining and quarrying and for rock crushing. And those conditions of approval are listed in your staff report. So let's go through some of the site photos, please. This is looking west towards the site. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site. Next slide, please. This is looking east away from the site, and I was standing, pretty much on, obviously off the road on the property when this photo was taken. You can see some of the residences nearby. Next slide, please. And this is looking south away from the site. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions from the commission of staff? Mr. Aldridge.
Yep. Christina, did you say earlier in your statement that some of the topsoil has already been removed?
This is based on historic aerial maps that we've identified. So our internal GIS system shows aerials, over the years. And so this one, you can see that there's clearly been some sort of digging. I think there's been some removal of topsoil there.
So basically, they're already early stages of operations, it sort of sounds like.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any citations that were given to the property owner for this soil extraction, but this is just what I've identified in our system.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bill Johnson.
I think a lot of dirt was removed in that area because that's where the dirt come to redo 235 and West Street when they redid that whole deal. Lots and lots of dirt was removed because it was an industrial lot. Of Of course, the county yard just south of this, I think.
Any other questions from the commission of staff? Not, thank you. We'll call on the agent or applicant. You'll have 10 minutes. Please give us your name and address.
Thank you. Jay Cook with Boffman Company, agent for the applicant. The applicant or our client for this conditional use is Wildcat Construction. And you are correct in that the bit of soil that was taken was for the improvements to Interstate 235. I believe we put in some new bridges over the railroad tracks where soil was needed. And I believe there may have just been a miscommunication on behalf of the company as to getting the conditional use before they actually took that. So that was something we're trying to mitigate with this conditional use. This location is unique to the request because Wildcat Construction is doing some road improvements. They've been granted the contract by the city of Wichita to do road improvements on West Street. This location is the most, seems to be the most economical location to have a soil extraction pit based off of the improvements that are going to be done to West Street. Let's see here. Before I get into what we believe are maybe some alternative facts of finding on the golden factors, I would like to state that I think the staff probably has to use sand and soil together, but there will be no sand extraction at this location. Your report has sand several times. I just want to make that clear that this is only going to be for soil. So going into the golden factors that were discussed in the staff report, this area, all of the area around here in pink is in the city of Wichita. That's going to come up here in a minute. To the south, we do have the maintenance yard for the county that has stacked gravel, sand, other things that dust could be attributed to. Let's see. The plan for our lot is once the project is done on West Street that we will refill that borrow pit. The soil that was taken off there, this is actually not groundwater. This is water that's accumulated due to drainage, water coming in. The way that Wildcat does is they take the topsoil to, they don't go beyond the groundwater. So the idea is to take as much as they need for building around West Street's improvements and using that, and then refilling when the work is done. In this aerial photo, with the first golden factor of the zoning and uses character of the neighborhood, I believe the staff report said that this may have been in the county. This is served by the city and city water, which I'll get to in just a minute as well. If you'll go to the zoning portion, I'd appreciate that. West Street from 47th down here all the way to 6 miles up to Maple Street is all zoned limited industrial, with the exception of maybe one lot up here on the west side, and then the east side, this is the only exception, these two lots to what is not limited industrial. So I feel like this area was intended to be an industrial site. The suitability for the subject property to its restrictions and how the extent to which the removal of those restrictions will detrimentally affect nearby property. As Christina said, there's a concern with noise, light pollution, and increased traffic. Our request does require a conditional use, but I would like to point out that some of the permitted uses that we could do without going through this process would be things like a hotel motel, which is going to add a significant amount of traffic construction sales, including outdoor storage of construction equipment. So you may have visually having to see or getting to see excavators, ditch witches, all sorts of construction equipment. We could have a microbrewery in this place, and most importantly, there could be a freight terminal here. If we're worried about truck traffic, without the use of a conditional use, we could just, by what we're allowed to by right, have a FedEx distribution center, or just a few miles or maybe a mile and a half north of this is an ABF truck, freight truck terminal, and Hampel Oil Distribution is up there as well. So while we may be adding some truck traffic to the area, there are limited industrial uses by right that would add significantly more. So this is actually, I think, to benefit not having as much of that truck traffic. There will be no resulting lake here. Like I said, we will be filling that back in. Future development can be done once that's been filled in. We can leave some of that as a water feature for a company that may come in as well. The relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare, noise, light pollution, and blowing dust. I believe that the conditions that staff has put on, if we are to be approved, mitigate a lot of those issues with the working hours that are provided, the limits on how long we can have the rock crusher there. All that should negate some of the detrimental effects. Moving to the community investment plans, the last line of the new employment, which is, if you'll go to that next slide, the last line of that in the community investments plan is areas where the uses are already established, pockets of industrial uses associated with extraction, processing, or refinement of natural resources of the materials will likely be developed. And I hate to make you do this, but if you could go back, there are 3 conditional uses that have been granted by the Planning Commission for exactly what we're asking for. That's this conditional use and these 2 here. So in this pocket that has allowed extraction, we believe that we're not asking for any more than what's already been asked for and what is allowed in this new employment. As far as the new residential employment mix, by right and by conditional use, no residential uses are allowed in limited industrial. So I don't know if that's kind of an oversight on the investment plan, but in limited industrial, we couldn't have residential uses anyway. We would have to rezone this to something that would allow that. I did get a couple of the opposition from neighborhood residents who are concerned with some drainage and runoff. This will be a self-contained site. We will have screening. A drainage plan is required by the conditional use, as you all know. So we will make sure that water is not running off and water is not coming in. One of the things that was stated in the staff report that I noticed is that the possibility of contamination of groundwater that local residents may be using as drinking water. All the local residents in these areas are on city water, so that wouldn't affect them. And there's not really any conclusive evidence that extraction of soil creates a groundwater contamination anyway. If you choose to approve some of the conditions from staff that we'd like to maybe get a little leeway on is number 4 on the soil extraction. A majority of the road work that's being done by Wildcat is to the north of this site. So a lot of the truck traffic to take soil is all going to be moving this way. There was a request for a turn lane down south of the site. We would ask that you take that out for the fact that a lot of the truck traffic will come this way. And also, once the improvements are done, West Street should be a 3-lane road with a center lane anyway. So we would be kind of redundantly making 2 center lanes. And then conditions on the rock crushing, number 3 is the same as number 4 with the turn lane. And then number 7, client is perfectly fine with 50 days on the rock crusher, but we would ask that because we're going to move it to the west side of the property, the west line, instead of down here on the south, we're going to move it over here, that we could do 5 consecutive days instead of 3. That would have the rock crusher there approximately 10 times a year, which is not a lot. And I'll stand for questions because I've talked too long.
I have a question regarding the rock crushing, or is the applicant planning on bringing rock in from outside this location to crush?
So the applicant, and he's here if we need to ask any specific questions, but as we are working on West Street, we'll be tearing up West Street. A lot of what will be recycled is going to be from that project, specifically on West Street there, just south of 235. And then the aggregate created from that will be used in building up West Street for the new and improved plan.
I have a question as well. The duration of this, is this facility basically going to work only as long as Wildcat is working on West Street, or is it their intention to continue operating it after that project is done for other projects?
That's a great question. So we put 10 years, not knowing the exact time limit of the full extent of the West Street improvement. Once West Street has been improved, they don't intend on utilizing the soil. They won't have the need to utilize the soil extraction anymore, or the rock crushing for that matter. So it'll be 10 years or less, but we just wanted to put a solid end date on it for you, to know that it's a temporary thing, not a permanent fixture.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes, one of my biggest concerns is the residential area directly across the street.
Yep.
On the east side.
I understand.
And I just don't know how you're going to avoid flooding those residential areas with a cloud of dust.
But we will use, as a part of the conditions, there will be dust suppressors. We'll have a water truck on site as required by, or not required, as recommended by the staff on the conditions. We will have a water truck on site to keep any gravel roads that are taking through the site, to keep those water down so dust isn't moving. And the rock crusher will have a dust suppressant on the end that after they crush, water is poured, directly onto what is crushed so that dust is not moving.
Well, we've had sites like this throughout Wichita, and I know we've had issues, residential areas have had issues before, and they're supposed to have the same, processes of mitigating the dust, everything else, and they don't. But I just think it's gonna be putting in one heck of a burden on those residents to the east side, especially right across the street.
And that could be, moving it over here to the west side puts about a 500-foot, maybe 450 to 500-foot distance or more maybe to that. We will have solid screening along this blue line here. And a good wind gust, a good windstorm could blow any of what the county has down there over as well. So we don't feel like we're adding too much, considering we on the south side already have the storage of sand, rock, and other things like that.
Well, it is Kansas, the wind does blow, and every once in a while we get that Oklahoma cool breeze out of there too.
Right.
One other question,
Yes,
or maybe it's a comment, I'm not sure. If this was not approved, West Street project is still going to happen, so Wildcat would have to find some other source, and there would still be trucks going up and down West Street anyway, right?
Right. And one of the things that I meant to point out is if this isn't approved, and it's obviously, your call on it, Wildcat will have to use a lot of the peripheral roads to get to other sites, because they're still going to have to borrow the soil to build up what they're going to have, and they're still going to have to bring in aggregate from somewhere. It'll include, truck traffic in more areas of Wichita than just on this one road.
Thank you.
Ms. Fox.
You said that there won't be sand extraction,
No sand.
and I don't, when you talk about dredging, that is used for sand extraction or soil also? Is
No,
that a
dredging is
term for
typically
both?
just sand.
Okay,
So with
so-
soil, it'll literally, we'll be taking a backhoe and just getting the top soil off, putting it in the truck, taking it up to where it needs to be put in for the road. Dredging, I think that, I could ask staff, I think that sand and soil may be lumped together, and that's why sand is included in this.
Okay.
But that's why the dredging hours are on there. There won't be any dredging.
Mr. Williams, Fay?
Did I understand you to say there were two similar sites adjacent?
There, if you'll go back to the zoning page there, and this was zoning, conditional use 2002. So this one's probably ran its course, and I'd say maybe this one has. This is a more recent one with a rock crusher and extraction. But all of these areas have been used for the same thing we're asking. And I wanted to point that out because the new employment of the CIP or the investment plan does state that in pockets where this has been done, it can be developed that way as well.
So could you work out a deal to move your crushing over to their pieces just because yours is so much closer to residential? That's my headache too. And from a noise standpoint in particular.
I'm not sure if they've been in contact with the owners of that. I know moving it over here, this is a train track that is used by trains. When you talk about noise, this makes noise as it goes through as well. I know the dust is an issue, but we're going to do everything we can to keep dust on the property with dust suppressants and whatnot. And I know that's the big bugaboo with these things. But moving it over here to the west side instead of where we originally had it right here, I think is going to do a lot for keeping that on our property.
Mr. Williams, Fay?
Did they go back and fill in those other two sites?
I'm just making them work hard. If you'll go back to the aerial, there's an open pond here and here. This was filled in, this area here. So it's going to look similar to this and this when it's done, which will allow for development, some other type of development once they've concluded what they need to do.
Mr. Warren, do you have a question?
Yes, the concern that I had to do with the rock crushing area being so close to the residential area. Could you confirm for me again that you're moving that rock crushing area further to the west where after that would be?
Yeah, if you'll go one page back, on one slide back to the our site plan that we submitted. I believe it should be one slide before this. If not, I can kind of show you. We had.
Jay, I think that one is missing from the PowerPoint.
Okay,
But
perfect.
but we do have it in the staff report.
Okay, so in your staff report, we've got where we're going to store the gravel and aggregate here. We had the rock crusher right here, and I understand the concern that if you put a rock crusher right here, you're only maybe 200 feet from these neighbors. So what we're going to do with staff's recommendation is move it, because it is a mobile device. We're going to move it as far west as we can in order to try to mitigate that and try to be agreeable, good neighbors.
Any other questions from the commission of staff? Yeah, Mr. McKay.
Can you enlighten me on how you're going to go down to the water level but not get into the water level? And let me finish, please.
So,
and how you're going to refill that? Because right now it looks like to me about not a third, but almost a third of that ground's got water already. Even though you said surface drainage, that's fine.
Right. So that's a great question. So what Wildcat does typically is when they're excavating out the soil, as soon as they hit water, they move on, because if you hit water while you're getting soil, it turns into a mess, a muddy mess. They just want the good rich soil there to move up as a base. And then when they go to refill, it'll be using, excess material or material that is not useful for the improvements that they are doing on West Street. And like I said, they may keep a small bit of that as a water feature. That might be nice if they intend to sell, because they can still develop all of this and have a nice little pond.
Mr. Zimbelman?
The future growth plan here does show possible residential in this area, but you've been doing this a long time. So with all this stuff to the east and the railroad track and the yard down there, would you ever see this piece of ground desirable to a housing development?
I wouldn't think so with the county maintenance yard being just south of it. We'd have the same issues that I'm sure the neighbors have now of visual blight and that sort of.
Do you know of anything in the past about this piece of ground that a developer would talk to you about?
I'm not sure if there's been any I don't know how long Wildcat's on this property. Probably Wildcat's on it for 10 years, so I'd say that they've had it for this purpose for about that long. And whenever they complete their projects, if they decide to sell or maybe bring in some of their own stuff there, they can. And it could go residential, but I don't see the allure in it personally. But that's not up to me.
Mr. Joe Johnson?
Yes. What are the age of the homes to the east?
I believe this was platted in '84. I'm guessing. This one is a little more recent. These duplexes, I think they're duplexes. They are, yeah, because we platted that at Boffin. But anyways, those are a little bit more recent. This was platted in '84. This one maybe in middle to late '90s, early 2000s.
There's no further questions. Thank you. And now we will see, where are we? We're going to ask for anybody from the audience that has would like to speak on this issue. Please come forward and give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this?
Hello, my name's Nick Hefkin. I'm one of the owners of Family First Living, and we own the property at 3636 West 44th Street South. So basically this manufactured housing community right here. We sent a letter in about our concerns with, and it wasn't necessarily the truck traffic. West Street has a lot of traffic anyway. It's hard to turn into 44th Street now, but we were concerned with the noise and the dust. We also have a large area right here that we could future develop into some housing that would probably cause an adverse effect from this. I thought Boffman brought up some great points on some other uses as far as like retail or sales type of things that would not produce the noise, nor would it produce the dust. I think also the other thing I would consider is, you guys probably spent a lot of money with your comprehensive plan to come up with what you think a future use would be. So I think that's something you still want to definitely consider. Also, when you're coming into golden factors, it's not supposed to put an adverse condition on any adjacent property owners. And in this case, I agree with staff that it would do that. That's all I have at this time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this case? Not, I'll bring it back to, actually, we're going to call on the agent or applicant. You have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
I won't rebut much of what was stated. The comprehensive plan does try to keep all the neighborhood similar. I will state that This is an area where it seems like industrial is what is mainly done. I'm sure this is Red Guard where they make shipping containers into different things. There's noise associated with every business you do. The dust, like I said, is mitigated a lot by what the staff has put the conditions on if it is approved. And the rock crusher will be there. If you allow us to do 5 consecutive days, it'll be there 10 times in a year. And 5 days of possible dust is, or you know, I don't even think we're going to have to use it 50 days. I believe they'll probably use it less than that. So it's going to be specific to this one road project, and that's all I'll say about the dust on that.
Thank you, sir. Bring it back to the commission for discussion and action.
Kirk
Further
Sponsor,
comments?
Kirk Sponsor, Deputy County Councilor. I just wanted to jump in real quick. Just as staff has laid out the conditional uses separately, so too would be my recommendation that ultimate motions be separate for the individual conditional uses. Thank you.
You understand that, Mr. Johnson?
No. I'm going to start this with some discussion. Basically, when you get off of West Street at K235, you got APAC that's got mountains and mountains of asphalt that they grind up, make asphalt paving, trucks leaving there. Next day, it's Burcap Construction. Again, just big road work and stuff. Next day, it's Hample Oil. Then Baby Ebb Frup, which they got trucks coming in 24/7. Next to them is Brecknell Trucking, which is a truck service shop and also sells new trucks and used trucks. County Yard south of that. On the east side, you got, I think, Evergy or one of the utility companies has got a big site there. D&D Construction, D&D Equipment. Lang's got their box deal that's on there. And then there's also a large mini storage that really kind of blocks them mobile homes that are to the east of that. Since it's a conditional use and they got to keep control of the dirt, I'm in favor of approving it. I'll make the motion for both of them, same.
We want to take these cases separately. Let's make sure we understand what the difference in these two motions is.
We're still in the comment section. Are we in the?
We're still discussing.
Right. Go ahead. No motion on the table
Yeah,
yet.
I appreciate Commissioner Johnson's comments, and I definitely understand what he's saying, but I also am very concerned about adding any additional dust problems. I mean, the noise is going to be there, but my concerns is that excessive dust that's going to be generated from the rock crusher and from the extraction itself. And I just think at some point we need to look at that heavily and see what, you know, the extra burden that's putting on those residents in that area right there. So I think we need to really consider that before we look at approving it.
Bob, if they don't control the dust, they lose a conditional use. So it'll disappear.
Does everyone understand that? As I understand it, the request is for mining or quarrying and rock crushing. And staff report says that they recommend that it be denied, but if it should be approved, that mining and rock quarrying would be considered separately.
Kirk Sponsor, Deputy County Councilor. I recommend that mining or quarrying is considered one conditional use per our code, but rock crushing is considered a separate conditional use per our code. That's why I recommended that those be considered separately. Also, I won't get into a lot of detail, but there are different voting requirements once they go past this to the BOCC level in terms of approval for the respective conditional uses.
Thank you. Okay, so mining and quarrying is the first issue we're considering. Any more discussion on it?
I want to ask legal now, if they're excavating dirt, is that considered what?
That would be mining and quarrying.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion on mining and quarrying?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just a reminder that the agent asked the board to consider alternate conditions. One of them was a request for the mining and quarrying. There was a request to consider changing or altering condition number 4 under mining and quarrying, which required them to install a center turn lane. From a staff's perspective, we did consult county engineering, public works. That was a request from them. But I just want to bring it to your attention before you go into a motion that there was a request from the agent to consider altering conditions.
That's not part of staff's recommendation. Of course, staff's recommendation is decline it. So the motion would have to be mining and quarrying with the condition that the turn bay be included.
Well, that is a condition that is listed
Right.
in your staff report. Should you look to approve it, the agent requested that condition be removed.
Understand. Counselor?
This is Kirk Sponsor, Deputy County Counselor. I believe just on its face, motions for denial on either of these items would be fairly straightforward. But motions for approval, because there would be separate findings requested from myself for this, and also because of the inclusion of the additional conditions recommended by staff, as well as the exceptions requested by the applicant, that if someone were wanting to make a motion to approve, I'm certainly available to kind of walk through what their intent is, and then I could craft language which they could then usurp and use as they wanted.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's the?
I appreciate that.
What's the disposition of the board?
Start the process.
I'm going to make a motion to approve that with the stipulations that the applicant agreed to, and then also what the staff suggested.
And this,
And
this is a motion for quarrying and not rock crushing, right? Rock crushing is going to be considered separately.
Okay, so this is a consideration of the mining or quarrying. It's a motion to approve. It would be with the conditions indicated by staff. Are you wanting to entertain any of the exceptions requested by the applicant?
I think I'm going to pass on that.
Okay.
It's going to be hard to follow.
And just for clarification, you indicated some findings previously. Were there any other findings that were persuasive to you, either in your own analysis or those findings that were referenced by the applicant agent?
Well, I've been here over 50 years, and I was very familiar with all this area because a very good friend of mine owned that, passed away, and Wildcat bought it. And it's always been West Street with construction equipment on it and noisy and dirt.
Bill, I'd like to second, but I think we should, if we're going to do this, the findings would be as noted by the applicant in their presentation here. And I think we should make the exception that the applicant requested to not do a center turn lane. If they're building West Street to have a center turn lane anyway, it would be redundant, so.
That's true.
So would you care to revise your motion to?
I'd revise it to that.
Okay, so a motion then would be move to approve the mining or quarrying conditional use application per the findings presented by the applicant agent, which are hereby adopted by the moving party. This approval shall be with the conditions suggested by staff, with the exception of condition number 4, requiring a center turn lane as indicated in the staff report.
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Bill Johnson, second by Foster. Any further discussion? All those in favor excuse me, Mr. Warren.
Just a quick question, just for clarification purposes. My support is based on the fact that the rock crushing unit would actually be moved to the far west side of the property. I would make that a condition.
We're gonna be taking the rock crusher up
We're gonna have a
next.
second motion on that after this.
Okay, okay.
It's just dirt
This does not
removal.
approve rock crushing. We're gonna consider that next. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, we have one nay and what? 13, 11 to 1, okay. Motion carries. Now we're going to consider a motion to allow rock crushing on this location, subject to what the applicant has proposed to move the rock crushing to the west on this.
I'll make that a motion.
And Kirk Sponsel, Deputy County Councilor, once again, is your motion based off of the arguments and findings made by the applicant agent that you have incorporated into your own analysis?
Yes.
Okay, and per the conditions presently in front of us of the 13 conditions, are you once again wanting to waive the requirement for a center turn lane found in number 3?
Yes.
And then separately, are you wanting to change per the applicant request on condition number 7, the consecutive days from 3 to 5?
Yes.
Okay. And I also heard language about the rock crushers being moved to the western edge of the property. To be more precise on that, I'm not trying to insert myself here, but is there a distance that would be appropriate and acceptable to you in order to do this? It looks to me like on the plat page, for example, there's a row of 4 of them. It looks like if it was extended so that the rock crushing area would not be closer than 750 feet away from West Street, that would force at least 2 of the rock crushing circles to be moved. Is that acceptable? Do you want different distance?
That's fine.
Okay.
Second.
In that case, the motion would be move to approve the application for rock crushing per the golden factor arguments and findings enunciated by the applicant agent as adopted and incorporated by the MAPC. This approval shall be made with the conditions recommended by staff, with the exception of number 3 requiring a center left turn lane, and with the change to requirement number 7, in which the applicants are allowed to conduct the rock crusher shall only be used 50 days per year and no more than 5 consecutive days in a row. And also with the added condition that the rock crushing area must not be closer than within 750 feet of Southwest Street.
Correct. I also want to make a comment. Since they are going to be redoing West Street, you're going to have the truck traffic there no matter what. I think I want to compliment Wildcat to try to locate where they're only hauling that stuff a short distance, hauling it back, putting it on the road when they redo it. They did the same thing when they did 235 and the bridges and all that. They bought that property, got the dirt, short haul, kept trucks from driving all over the city.
Okay,
I would second the motion.
have a motion and a second. Motion by Bill Johnson, second by Ms. Foster. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. We are now to 4.4. We have a staff report, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Philip Zevenberger with planning staff. CUP 2404 is a CUP amendment request located on the northwest corner of East 13th Street North and North Oliver, 4794 East 13th Street. This request has two two things to it. Number one, they're asking to increase the allowable outdoor storage area from 10% to 20% of the floor area of the main associated main building, in addition to reduction of a setback for which that outdoor storage would be placed on the east side of the building between the building and North Oliver. The setback would have to be reduced from the 35-foot setback that is required for community unit plans when adjacent to arterial roads, and reduce it down to 16 feet. If you want to go to the site plan, we can look over this. In the CUP, this is parcel 1A. The existing building was a former Walmart neighborhood market. I believe it had a retail store in it. Once Walmart vacated the area, and that furniture store has since then left as well, so it's been a vacant building for some time. The applicant is requesting to allow for outdoor storage in what was the drive-through pharmacy lane. And this particular retail store supplies to the public, is not wholesale, but plumbing, HVAC, electrical equipment. There's actually a particular store of this kind on Woodlawn and Harry. I think it's the Lock store. And so some of the larger items that they have, such as pipes or copper tubing, things like that, they store outside for individuals to come and purchase. That would be placed in this area. The the Unified Zoning Code requires or has stipulations for outdoor storage in the limited commercial area. A community unit plan has the ability to adjust those. The standard is a 10% floor area to outdoor storage area ratio. So you take 10% of the floor area of the main building, and that's how much outdoor storage you can have for merchandise that you are selling. The applicant is requesting 20%, which the Unified Zoning Code does allow. It would have required a conditional use in limited commercial had this not been in a CUP, but this is why we're doing the amendment. The amendment essentially acts as the conditional use. So they are asking to go up to 20%, which is allowable within the zoning code through this public hearing process. As I mentioned as well, in order to accommodate this space, they're asking to reduce the setback to 16 feet. That setback is established for, it's not a platted setback. It is a setback that community unit plans are required to follow when they're next to an arterial roadway, which is North Oliver. This is a unique site in that you have all of your parking area up front, you have your loading dock area in the back, you have residential uses in the back. It's not necessarily conducive for the storage of merchandise for individuals to go and purchase. So for this particular site, this seems to be a fairly logical location for some of the outdoor storage of merchandise that they are looking to sell. There's details in your staff report about what their storage area would be. The community unit plan requires screening of the property. That is already in place. There's a solid wall on the north property line. Staff is recommending that an amendment to the general provisions to require solid screening of the outdoor storage area, minimum 6-foot height with a solid screening fence, but it would have to be tall enough to screen all merchandise from ground level view. So that would be determined based on how tall they're looking to go, but it would at least have to hide all of the merchandise they're looking to sell. It cannot be a chain link fence with slats in it. It would have to be the standard solid screening per the Unified Zoning Code. In addition, staff is looking to beef up some of the existing landscaping requirements that are along Oliver. It requires a continuous amount of landscaping, in particular the use of trees along there. Through the years of neglect on this property, this stipulation is currently not even up to date. Several of those requirements for landscaping aren't even installed, or they died off and nobody came back to maintain them, but this building has been in and out of ownership and occupancy anyway. Right now, the standard requires just certain level of trees. It's up to the choice of the applicant of what types of trees they put in. Staff is recommending that that be adjusted to require any new trees to be planted to be evergreen trees. There's some deciduous trees that are already there They're decent trees. We don't necessarily want to require them to be ripped out only to have to put in an evergreen tree to meet a compliance. So we do have some leeway in there saying existing trees can stay as long as they are healthy. If they have to replace them, then they would have to be replaced with evergreen trees. But any new trees to be placed would have to be evergreen. The total number of trees would be 14 along the entire frontage of parcel 1A. So really when you're looking at this distance, that's not many trees. I think I counted there's approximately 7 existing trees. So they're really not having to add too many more than what's already there. If you want to go to the zoning map, please. The area is a mixture of commercial, office, and residential. You can see the arterial corner has commercial uses with commercial zoning. Inside the CUP, there's this vacant retail store, there's a fast food restaurant, there's vacant retail parcels. Some of them are occupied, some of them are not. There's some vehicle repair and vehicle sales on the south side of 13th Street. There's office uses, 2-family, single-family uses, there's a church. So it's kind of a mixture of uses in the area. Again, this has been a vacant building for some time. It's coming in and out of ownership. This actually could be a good viable use within the area that might actually start to bring some economic activity. So overall, staff is recommending approval of this. Understanding, weighing, adding some of the visual aspects to Oliver, but we can screen that and provide some landscaping, to the added benefit of having an occupied retail space with a company that's been established in Wichita at other locations and actually might drive some additional economic vitality in the area. The comprehensive plan identifies the area as appropriate for commercial development. This fits right in line in there. The places for people plan encourages infill development that is contextual to the environment in which it's occurring. There's a lot of retail in this area, several commercial uses. This is not an unreasonable request in order to allow for the outdoor storage to be on the east side of the building. The Central Northeast Area Plan identifies 2 goals. One of it is to encourage more neighborhood serving retail and personal services. This is a retail store to the general public. It's not a wholesale. So we feel that that fits that. In addition to retaining existing businesses or creating new businesses and employment opportunities that will benefit area residents, we feel that this provides for that opportunity as well. Again, overall staff is recommending approval. Subject conditions in your staff report. One of them is identifying the outdoor storage area on the CUP, essentially acting like a site plan to say the outdoor storage has to remain in that area. We talked about requiring, item number 2 is requiring the solid screening fence that we discussed. Item number 3 details the specifics about the landscaping requirement regarding 1 tree per 30 feet along the east property line of parcel 1A. Any new trees have to be evergreen. They would have to submit a landscape plan since they have landscaping requirements, and then our standard conditions of approval for CUP drawings and things like that. I have not heard any public comment regarding this item, and I can go through the site photos here real quick if we want to jump to those. This is looking north at the front of the building. Again, you can see it used to be Walmart, and I think the previous use that was not Walmart just had like a banner sign that covered it. Next picture. This is, I'm on the east side of Oliver looking west. This is the area that they're proposing to put the outdoor storage. You can see some existing trees over here. There's some existing trees to the south, but this is where the pharmacy drive-through lane where they would have to screen the outdoor storage and provide some additional landscaping in this area west of the sidewalk. Next picture. This is on the north part of the property. This is the CUP wall that's there. That's the existing church, and there's residential behind it. So their CUP screening requirements are met. This is on the backside of the loading dock on the backside of the building. Next picture. This is looking directly north, the church being the most abutting property that would possibly be affected by it, at least on the north side. Next picture. Again, a little farther out view, next picture. This is looking to the northeast. Farther north from the property, there's residences directly on Oliver that would have some visual impact possibly with outdoor storage, but these screening and landscaping requirements are designed to mitigate that. Next picture. When you get closer to 13th Street, you get some offices, and this was a former Quick Trip that got turned into a bank. And then you have 13th Street down here, so you get more higher intensity uses as you get closer to 13th Street. Next picture. This is the Church's Chicken that's in this little carve out from parcel 1A. Church's Chicken is a separate parcel and not parted to it, but this is within the CUP. Next picture. This is looking northwest within the CUP. There are some areas of the existing buildings that are occupied. Several of them are vacant. Next picture. This is looking south. This is 13th Street in the foreground. There's a retail smoke shop. This is a car sales as well as car repair facility and just general commercial along, or not general commercial, but in general, it's commercial along 13th Street. Next picture. And I can stay in for any questions.
Are there any questions from the commission of staff? Yes, Mr. Williams Bay.
Philip, now I have a couple questions. The fencing that's going to be required, will that match the fencing in the along the back side?
It is not required to be a wall. Excuse me. For the outdoor storage area, we're just requiring them to do solid screening with a fence around the storage area. So we're not requiring a wall along Oliver, just the extent to which the area that is going to have outdoor storage, we're just requiring solid screening in terms of a fence and any material that is permitted by the zoning code. So it could be a minimum of a wood fence, it could be masonry, it could be a wall if they wanted to, but it could be a minimum of a fence.
Will that be gated on the front, or?
They are allowed to have a gate, and this zoning code is specific that the gate can be open during business hours, but the gate, when shut, has to be of the solid screening material so that when it is shut, it does screen the material that is behind it.
The fence has to be as tall as any material they're going to be storing in that area.
Correct. That is one of the conditions, that it's a minimum of 6 feet, but however tall they have storage items outside, the fence has to hide it reasonably from ground level view.
Okay, so if they had 10-foot high items stored, would that back wall have to be extended up 10 foot also?
Not the back wall. If this is where their storage area is going to be, they would have to have a fence on the northern extent of their storage area that would have to hide it.
Okay.
Mr. Warren.
Philip, I'm having a hard time putting in my head this screening of evergreens. I'm having a hard time putting in my head how much screening we've got. My concern is, would it be blocking the vision from the street to the front of the building? Sometimes we put so much screening up that we make it detrimental to a business where they can't be seen to the public because they're covered with trees. And going from an indigenous to an evergreen might add to that problem.
That's a good question. The point of the evergreen was to have year-round contiguous vegetation that breaks up the screening fence that we're requiring. Right now, the CUP requires 1 tree per 30 feet along Oliver anyway, so that's not new. That's a condition they would have to apply for or have to come into conformance with, even if they just occupied the store. We wanted to go to evergreen just to have a year-round contiguous vegetation to visually break up the screening wall all year round. And it's 1 tree per 30 feet. So it's not a continuous line of evergreens that provides a full block of your vision. It's just having some landscaping every so often to help visually break up a solid screening wall.
Any other questions of staff?
Sorry, fence, not wall.
If not, thank you. We'll call on the agent or applicant now. You will have 10 minutes. Please state your name and address.
My name's Chuck Robinson. I'm with Caw Valley at 9139 East 37th Street North. We're the agent for the applicant. And I really don't have anything to add. Mr. Zevenberger did a great job, explained it much better than I could. So I will entertain any questions that you have.
Mr. Aldridge.
Sir, do you support all the recommendations and comments that staff has made?
Yes, we can live with them.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Not, thank you. Is there anyone from the public here that would like to speak on this case? Anyone from the public? If not, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Motion to approve per staff recommendations and comments.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Aldrich, second by Mr. McKay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Yes, Scott.
Just for the record, sir, I believe that Commissioner Joe Johnson and Commissioner Fry have departed, so I think the vote is 10-0.
Thank you. Okay. So we finished 4-4. No, that was 4-5 we just discussed, right? No, 4-4. Okay, we're on 4-5, excuse me. Staff report, please.
Yes, good afternoon again. My name is Brad Etherly, Senior Planner for MAPD. We are discussing case ZON 2024-00010. This is a request for a zone change from RR Rural Residential District to GC General Commercial District to permit a vehicle storage yard on a portion of property in the county. The 5-acre portion of the property is part of a larger parcel that is 18.7 acres in size and is located approximately 360 feet south of West 79th Street South and South Meridian Avenue. The subject site is currently used for agricultural uses. It is important to note that for sites greater than 2 acres, vehicle storage yards are permitted in the RR district by conditional use if the storage area does not exceed 10,000 square feet, which this one obviously does. Should the zone change be approved, several property development standards would change as seen as in the agenda report. The Unified Zoning Code requires screening of commercial properties when abutting or across a street or alley from residential zoning districts. Because the property abuts residential zoning on all sides, the applicant would be required to provide a solid screening fence of at least 6 feet in height where the vehicle storage yard is proposed. The property would also need to adhere to the rules and regulations of the Sedgwick County Sign Code. Compatibility height standards state that no structure shall exceed 35 feet in height within 50 feet of the lot line of the property. Zone TF3, two-family residential district or more restrictive. Any future buildings shall comply with the maximum height of 35 feet, which is the same as the abutting and adjacent RR districts on the north, east, and south sides of the property. Should the zone change be approved, the applicant shall be required to adhere to the parking standards set forth by the UZC, which would come to 1 parking stall per 10,000 square feet of storage area. If we can go to the zoning map, which we already are, property to the north is zoned RR and is developed with a single-family dwelling. Property to the west is within the Hayesville city limits, is zoned SF single-family residential district and is undeveloped or agricultural. Property to the south is zoned RR and is undeveloped agricultural. Properties to the east across South Meridian Avenue of the subject site are zoned RR and are undeveloped or agricultural. The subject site is currently unplatted. The property is under the subdivision jurisdiction of the city of Hayesville in regard to subdivision and platting. The city of Hayesville recently determined the site could remain unplatted if the site was used for agricultural or single-family residential uses only. If the zone change is approved, the applicants may be required to plat a portion of the site according to the City of Hayesville subdivision regulations. There have been no other zoning cases associated with the property. South Meridian is a 2-lane paved arterial street with ditches on both sides. There are no sidewalks on either side, and there are no known services such as water and sewer. The requested conditional use is not in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map, if we can go to that, identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for small city urban growth area. Staff has been in communication with the City of Hayesville, and you can see, if we can go to the Hayesville map, the 2022 Hayesville Future Community Growth Patterns map from the City of Hayesville identifies the site as appropriate for neighborhood mixed use. Hayesville Planning Department defines neighborhood mixed use as a mix of residential types and small-scale commercial and institutional uses that are typically meant to serve the needs of the surrounding neighborhood, but does not include drive-through businesses like banks, restaurants, or car washes. We believe a vehicle storage yard would not be considered a small-scale commercial or institutional use. And like I said, staff has been in communication with the Hayesville Planning Department. They do plan on recommending denial to the Planning Commission of Hayesville tonight. If we can go to the site pics real quick. This is looking west from the subject site. Next pic. This is looking north away from the site. Next picture. This is looking east away from the site. Next picture. And this is looking south away from the site. We have received one comment from the public, which is included in front of you with the packet that was handed out. We would say that, staff does recommend that the request be denied. However, we do say that if the MAPC finds that the zone change be approved, it's recommended that the MAPC adopt alternate findings supporting their recommendation, and staff recommends protective overlay number 432, which is located in the agenda report as well. Having said that, I will stand for any questions.
Mr. Aldridge.
Yeah, the staff report said that the city of Hayesville recently determined that the site could still remain unplanted. So did they actually hear this case? If not, then who made that determination?
Sure, I can't speak to that. I don't know exactly how recently that was. Just in our communication with the City of Hayesville Planning Department, they indicated that there was a recent determination that if the property remained single family or agricultural, it could remain unplatted.
Okay, yeah, because I was just curious, then why didn't they make a determination whether for approval or denial? But I guess you just answered that question. The other question I have, if this body was to approve, and then it went to City of Hayesville and they denied it, then what?
Well, the City of Hayesville Planning Commission would still just be a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, just like this recommendation would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
According to the staff report, the Hayesville Planning Commission is considering that today. Is that correct? Right.
That's correct.
Mr. Williams-Bay.
Has the City of Hayesville received any public comment on this?
The City of Hayesville does have representatives here. I do not know if that's the case. If you would like for them to step up, I'm sure they would be happy to.
Yes.
Would you please state your name and address for the record, sir?
Jonathan Tardif, Plain Zoning Administrator to the City of Hayesville, residing at 317 Stearns Avenue in Hayesville. The only public comment we had received were from the neighbors to the north of the property, which is in your staff report.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the Commission of staff at this point.
I have one.
Yes, Mr. McKay.
Because of the conflict in meeting dates, would we be smart to defer for 2 weeks to find out what the Hayesville people are gonna say?
I think staff indicated that they were looking at denial. Was that correct?
I apologize. I couldn't hear you, Commissioner McKay.
I'm just saying, should we delay this for 2 weeks or not deny, but postpone for 2 weeks until we hear what the Hayesville people say? Business up in the air whether we're gonna pass it or not pass it.
Sure, I think that would be at the discretion of the commission.
I don't know. What happens if they defer it in order to see what we're gonna decide? I mean, somebody's gotta go first.
So an
It's
order
like
of process,
Groundhog Day.
an order of process here, this body has the opportunity to make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, whether approval or denial. So does the city of Hayesville, because it's in their Hayesville influence area. If, say, this body recommends approval and the Hayesville body recommends denial, regardless of what this body recommends, if the Hayesville Planning Commission recommends denial, that acts, our zoning code essentially says that's a valid protest and automatically requires the Board of County Commissioners have a 4 or 5 vote, regardless of this body's recommendation and regardless of any public protests we receive from neighbors. So essentially, you guys can work independently from Hayesville. Neither recommendation trumps the other. Both recommendations go before the Board of County Commissioners for consideration.
But you did say that City of Hayesville was looking at denial. Is that correct?
It is our understanding that the City of Hayesville Planning Department is going to recommend denial to the Hayesville Planning Commission tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Based upon Philip's comments, I believe that we should proceed to hear this case today. Okay. So if there's no further questions of staff, we'll call on the applicant or agent to come forward. You will have 10 minutes to speak. Please give us your name and address.
And real quick, did you guys get my PowerPoint or documentations? Okay. My name is Kimberly Murrow. My property address is 8191 South Meridian, Hayesville. I want to start by thanking you for your time today. We would like to ask for a zone change on 5 acres of our property from rural residential to general commercial to allow for outdoor vehicle storage for RV and boat storage. Our plan is to build a single-family residential home on 15 acres of the property. We had twins on October 11th of 2023, and we want to build our forever home here. We purchased this land in September of 2023. We got a letter of exemption from platting and from Hayesville on December 1st, 2023 to build our home. We saw the need and the benefit of having an RV boat storage on our property as we were looking for storage for our camper and everything close by was filled up. We had nowhere, and so that's actually how we discovered this land. Was somebody that I knew that owned it said you could store your camper here because all the storage places were full. This would benefit the community around us, the homeowners around us and the residents, such as HOAs that don't allow campers or RVs or boats to be parked on your property or in the street. It'd also be beneficial to individuals who just want to free up some parking space that might have kids that are in high school that have extra cars or vehicles. They'd like to just free up some driveway space and would like to pay to store their camper somewhere else that is close by in a secured place. Like I said, last spring and winter, we looked for a place to store our camper, and Hoffman's was the closest place, and they were full. We will follow the screening and lighting codes for the storage as talked about. Country Lakes, Southampton, and other HOAs would appreciate having this storage lot available to their residents. It will be a safe and secure outdoor self-storage with gates, motion-sensored lights, and well-maintained aisles. We'll be the closest neighbors to this RV storage lot. We're going to share the same driveway as this storage lot. So we are going to be very sympathetic to the neighbors surrounding, because we do want it to be appealing, because we do want to live there for forever. That's what we want to be, our forever home, to raise our family. I believe Hayesville will allow you to store a recreational vehicle or camper or boat, but I know the city of Wichita will not allow you to store from November 1st to March 31st. During the winter months, they won't allow you to store your camper on your own property. So you have to pay somewhere to store it. And because so many communities discourage on-street RV parking and boat trailers, storage facilities for these vehicles are always in demand. We plan on living on this piece of property, so again, we are sympathetic to the local residents. We plan to be very good neighbors. This will help the community free up driveway space and abide by HOA rules and regulations, and this will also generate an income for our family. Before we purchased the land, we saw on Hayesville that there was 2 site maps for Hayesville, and these are the 2 site maps that were on their website at the time we bought the land in September. One of them says that it is commercial, and then one of them says that it's neighborhood mixed use purposes. Again, even on the mixed use purposes in the orange, right here, let me use my clicker. Those are mixed, neighborhood mixed, but then right south of that is commercial. Which these 2 lots, one of these was a pumpkin patch at one time. And then the rest of it is all just undeveloped around there. Our closest neighbor would be this yellow piece right here, to the north of us. And then, so we did get an exemption letter from Hayesville to build our home. They exempted us from platting to build our home, but yet they said if this goes through that they wanted us to plat. And I was kind of confused on that, so I called Jonathan with the Hayesville department, and he did say he was going to look into that further for me, because we are not going to have any structures. We're not going to have units. We're not going to have an office. I mean, the only structure that's going to be on this piece of land is our house and then this outdoor storage. So we're not having 3 wall structures. We're not having units, and we're not splitting the parcel. That whole parcel is ours, will forever be ours. There's never going to come a time where we're going to sell part of it and keep the other part. That's not going to happen. It's all going to be ours for forever. Yeah, we only want self-storage, online easy access. It'll be gated, secured. It is not invasive or noisy. It will not be an eyesore, as it will be screened and lighting. It will be clean and appealing. Country Lakes, the neighborhood closest to us. On the first street you turn on, there's 2 houses right there that have RVs and campers in their driveway that I'm sure would love to benefit from having a storage place close by. I would like to state that Hayesville only has 1 RV boat storage lot in Hayesville. There's 18 spots and it's completely full. And the owner told me that you'll never get a spot there because those are regular customers that he has every year that just keep that spot. I did some research, and in the 2020 census in Hayesville, there was 11,262 people with 4,133 homes and 2,988 families. Hayesville does own the property behind us, and they are looking to develop that into 160 residents. So where are those 160 people going to store their recreational boats, vehicles, campers, trailers? I think this would be a great place for them to store that kind of stuff, being Hayesville only has one that has 18 spots and it's full. So there's definitely a need out there. Hoffman's is on West Street and MacArthur, and they're full. So I think this would be a great benefit to Hayesville and the residents surrounding us. We want to be a part and contribute to the community. My daughter goes to Oakville Elementary School, and I'm their vice president of their PTO. I'm very involved. Sadly, she has a play tonight, and Hayesville wants to hear this case tonight, so I'm unfortunately going to miss that, but I will stand for questions.
Do you have any questions of the applicant? Yes, Mr. Aldridge.
I guess you can probably point out from here of using the mouse, but in relationship to where you showed that the zoning was commercial on the previous slide there, where exactly is there you go. Where is your home located?
Okay, so we would be this first orange one right here.
Okay, so you own all the property south of that?
No, so I own this section right here, this first orange section. That's right here.
Oh, okay, I was confused on that. I thought that the highlighted area was where you were looking at putting the storage.
No, if we go back to that site, can we go back to the site plan? Go back one. Oh, right there. So we own this whole section, which is 20 acres, but we just want to section this 5 acres off for storage, vehicle storage. Our house is going to be somewhere over here.
Okay, so that's, okay, I got it now. So that's not zone commercial. Okay, that's where I got a little confused at. In the event that this is approved, do you support all staff recommendations and requirements?
The only concern I had was with number 5 about the plating. Like I said, we got an exemption from plating from Hayesville to build a single-family residential home. And because we're not splitting it and because we're not having any structures, I ask that we do not have to plat it if we don't put any structures on there.
So with this being in the Hayesville subdivision jurisdiction, this body doesn't have any authority over whether or not Hayesville would require you to plat. They've got, it's not only in their influence area for zoning, but they have extraterritorial subdivision jurisdiction, which means they have authority over platting outside of their city limits. So it's, their rules are their rules, and that request would have to be made to Hayesville.
Okay.
If there would be any exemption or waiver.
Okay. And then I was, on number 7, I was just a little confused about that one.
Essentially, that means if you sell the property, this zoning and protective overlay goes with the land.
Okay. Well, we don't intend on doing that, so.
Any other questions of the applicant? If not, we'll call on anyone from the public that's here that wants to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Christy Arneson. My address is 8055 South Meridian. I am the property just to the north of this. We have lived there for 8 to 9 years now. Again, everything around that area is residential. Yes, Bergman's used to be a pumpkin patch, but again, it is now a grass farm, so there's still no major storage going on there, and actually the buildings that they had there, they actually took out of there. My concern is the fact that if we only have 6-foot screening and we're doing RVs are taller than 6 foot, so it's not going to shield anything from our property as well as from the street itself. Also, if there's no structures, it's just going to be a parking lot, so it could end up being basically a junkyard that we get to look at all the time. I'm concerned about the amount of traffic. That is only a 2-lane road, so if you are pulling a trailer, it is hard to turn in there. I know that because having to move a trailer when we were moving, it's difficult. So I'm concerned about the amount of traffic that's going through there, having to make a wide turn to get into the driveway, and having accidents happen. People also like to look around and see what's going on. And we've had a number of accidents because there was a fire, somebody got rear-ended and sent somebody to the hospital. Also at 79th and Meridian is a big intersection of people slowing down and turning. Also the speed limit increases right about that same area. So people are gunning it, and they are not going to think that they need to look and slow down at something that's a half mile to a quarter mile away. I'm a little concerned of what it's going to look like with it being no structures and only a 6-foot screening process that's there. So yes, I'm just concerned with also residential area probably developing. She made a point that HOAs would be happy. Well, obviously, if there's already boats and storage in the HOA that's actually closest to us, then obviously that's not an issue of needing a place to have that storage. I don't want to look at a junkyard, sorry. So,
Ma'am, where is your house located?
we are the property that's to the north, right here. This is my house, right there.
And how far would you say that was from your house to the proposed site?
So that would be, these are 40-acre lots. So this would be the halfway point. I don't know footage, but we have just under 10 acres this way. I believe this is a 20-acre plot, so it's halfway into the property of theirs.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
But yeah, there's nothing between our house and that storage area.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this? If not, I will give the applicant 2 minutes for rebuttal.
As far as her concern about the 2-lane street, I know Hayesville is working on a Meridian corridor plan, and at some point they want to change that to a 4-lane. I have their corridor plan with me to back that up. And as far as it being a junkyard, it's not going to be a junkyard. People have nice campers that they would like to store outside of their home. So it's definitely not going to be a junkyard. And as far as her having visual to it, our house is gonna be in between her house and that. So there is gonna be a barrier in between us because we're gonna have a house there. So her house sits right here, my house is gonna be in here, and then there's that. And again, HOAs will love this. Hayesville has a lot of HOA communities, and they might have campers parked there right now, but we lived in our house at MacArthur and Hoover for almost 9 years this April. 2 years ago, all of a sudden, we had an HOA too. They never enforced bylaws or anything, covenants. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, they sent letters out to all of us telling us to move our campers. We were like, we've lived here for 9 years, never had any problem with our campers. And they said, we're gonna start enforcing rules, we're gonna start enforcing our bylaws. The city says you can't park it here from November 1st to March 31st, but our HOA says you can't park it here for more than 3 days. So all of a sudden, we're having to find somewhere to store our camper when we had stored it in our 3-bay car garage for 4 years. So even though they're not being enforced now, doesn't mean that the HOAs aren't gonna start enforcing their rules and make those campers find places to go, because that's exactly what happened to us. But it helped us find this land, so we're thankful.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, we will bring it back to the commission for discussion and action. Yes.
For staff, can you clarify for me what a vehicle storage yard is and how this sort of proposed situation with operable RVs and campers being stored securely is different from, non-operable vehicles piled up in a junkyard?
Sure, I'll take a swing at that, and I hope I have backup if I need it. A vehicle storage yard would be something like this, where operable vehicles are stored for some time Something like a salvage or a wrecking yard would be where inoperable vehicles would be stored. And so there's the difference.
This would never, under any circumstance, allow a non-operable vehicle in here, even if it wasn't an RV or a boat.
That would be correct.
All right, thank you.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Williams, Bay.
Is there a time limit that a motor vehicle can be stored on these lots?
I don't believe so. Yeah, no.
Any other discussion? Let's bring it to a vote. Do I hear a motion?
I would move to approve the with the protective overlay number 432.
Okay, we have a motion by Foster, second by Zimmelman.
And Kirk Sponsor, Deputy County Counselor, once again, are there specific findings that were persuasive to you in making this determination?
Sorry, Kurt, I'm looking through the list of findings. The character of the neighborhood. Well, which were the findings? I'm trying to look for the findings that were the ones that generated the recommendation of denial. Because those are the ones that I would need to come up with alternatives for, right?
And I would suggest you don't have to come up with alternatives for all of them, but at least if there are one or two, at least that are convincing to you.
I don't think it's going to have a notable impact on the neighboring properties, given the fencing and the screening. And I do think there is a need for this sort of facility in the community at large, and that this is an appropriate place for it. Is that sufficient in the way of findings?
Thank you. Sorry for putting you on the spot.
That's okay. You do it regularly. I'm used to it.
I think Mr. Warren was first. Do we have a second to the motion? Seconded from Mr. Zimmerman. Okay.
Generally speaking, I would be in favor of something like this because there is a need for storage units. The problem I've got is that ones that we've done in the past, there has been some commercial development somewhere near where we're going in. This is an area that the only thing that we see right now is either residential or zone residential. There's not any businesses close to the location, and to put a business venture in the middle of what is probably going to be developed as residential really doesn't fit. So I'm going to find myself in opposition to this one.
Mr. McKay.
A clarification by the staff. Are we requiring the applicant to plat?
It is in the Hayesville jurisdiction for platting, so our condition in there essentially just reinforces that they are subject to their subdivision regulations. And if they require them, that's per their regulations, not ours.
Should we call for a voice vote on this?
I'm prepared if you want to do roll call or voice, it's up to you.
Excuse me, I mean roll call.
Okay, certainly. Yes, sir. So the motion is to approve with the protective overlay as described in the staff report. So with that, Dool?
No.
Foster?
Yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Fry is absent. Bill Johnson?
Yes.
Blick is absent. Nix is absent. Fox?
No.
Warren?
No.
Joe Johnson is absent. Miles is absent. Zimbelman?
Yes.
Aldridge?
Yes.
Williams Bay?
No.
The vote looks like it passes 5-4.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment that camper storage area, that's on MacArthur, just there by West Street. So that's another business along with Hoffman Trucking. So I forgot to mention those.
Okay. Moving on. We'll go to The next one is 4.6. Did we decide on this, that we're going to hear this?
That's deferred.
Okay, we did defer it. Okay, so we'll go to 4.7.
Good afternoon, everyone. Christina Reed with planning staff. This is case number zone 2024-00012. The applicant is requesting a zone change from limited industrial to CBD Central Business District. This property is a little bit under a half an acre in size, and it's, there's two properties in question, as you can see here. They are located on the west side of North Oak Street, within 250 feet north of West Douglas Avenue. The subject site is currently developed with office spaces. The southern portion was constructed in 1948 and the northern part was constructed in 1968. The applicant is requesting the zone change to match the zoning of nearby properties and allow for necessary development. The applicant did not specify how the property might be redeveloped, though the requested CBD zoning would give the applicant maximum flexibility with code required parking and building setback standards to develop the site. Within the past 8 years, more than a dozen zone changes to CBD have been approved in the Delano area. Now, when we look at this zoning map here, everything you see in light blue is already zoned CBD. So certain redevelopment of existing non-conforming structures may put them out of compliance with the existing LI zoning. So as we'll see in the site photos later, the building that is currently on site, at least the one on the southern portion of the site, it goes right up to the property line. So CBD zoning mitigates site development issues for older portions of the core area, such as the Delano neighborhood. The requested zone change would eliminate that front setback for the redevelopment of this structure, and then it would permit additional uses. So a list of the setback changes are in a table in your staff report. The character of the neighborhood is high intensity mixed use development. Property to the north is zoned CBD and is developed with a walkway associated with the high-rise apartment complex. Properties to the south are zoned limited commercial. They're also located within the Delano overlay and they're developed with several commercial buildings. Property to the east is zoned CBD and is developed with a parking lot ancillary to that high-rise apartment complex. And then properties to the west are zoned limited industrial and are developed with a metal fabrication shop and associated buildings. There are no zoning cases associated with these properties. In terms of public services, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission recently approved the vacation associated, you see here where this white is here, to be vacated for private parking for the applicant. The requested CBD zoning aligns with the goals of the Community Investments Plan. The 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map identifies the site as appropriate for residential and employment mix. And this category is defined as areas of land that will likely be developed or redeveloped by 2035 with uses predominantly of mixed nature. Due to the proximity of higher intensity business uses, residential housing types within this area will likely be higher density. The requested CBD zoning aligns with the goals of the Wichita Places for People plan by allowing for development momentum in the area. And this area is also identified as a community core in the Wichita Places for People plan. This community core node is intended to serve multiple neighborhoods and is designed to accommodate and balance multiple modes of transportation to serve a broader range of goods and services. And then when we look at the Delano neighborhood plan, they have their own future land use map, and it depicts the site as subject site as appropriate for mixed use. Based upon the information available prior to the public hearings, planning staff recommends that the request be approved. This recommendation is based on the golden rules, which are listed in your staff report. Now, at the time that the staff report was prepared, staff did not receive any public comment on the requested zone change. I did receive an email from a gentleman who, after receiving the report, requested to update one of the photos to reflect all of the property in question. So with that, let's go to the site photos. So this is looking west towards the site, and as you can see to my left, there is an additional building that is associated with the zone change that I did not include in my report. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site. Again, this building to the west here is part of the subject property, and then you can see the apartment complex that is past that walkway. Next slide, please. This is looking east away from the site that features the aforementioned ancillary parking lot. Next slide, please. And this is looking south away from the site. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Do we have any questions of staff from the commission? So this appears to be in addition to Hutton's office, which is on Douglas there, right?
Correct. This property is owned by the Hutton Corporation. I should say the two properties are owned by the Hutton Corporation.
Right.
I believe their offices are to the east, are they not?
I will defer to the agent for the applicant to make sure I have that answer correct.
Okay, thank you. We'll call on the agent or applicant. You'll have 10 minutes. Please give us your name and address.
Jay Cook, Boffman Company. I'm going to stand up here for 10 more minutes because you all don't look entertained enough. This is the current Hutton Corp building. We have recently vacated this right-of-way, and Hutton owns this as well. What we're doing basically is trying to unify the zonings that we have for their campus that they intend on extending with some parking and structures. So I'll stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions from the commission of the agent? Any questions? Thank you. We'll call on anybody from the public that would like to comment on this. Please give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Vince Hancock. I'm from Delano. On behalf of the Delano Neighborhood Association, this absolutely meets all the requirements of our neighborhood plan, and we recommend that you approve that. Even though Central Business District is normally designed for retail uses, because this meets those elements, I think it makes a lot of great sense. Just now finding out about the vacation, that vacation is null and void because that cul-de-sac is so that fire trucks can put out fires at the apartment complex. If that is blocked off in any way, shape, or form, the fire truck will just mow down their buildings. So that vacation process did not have any letters going out, and that's was inappropriate. On a personal note, I do appreciate that the members of this body are volunteers, but I encourage each one of you to personally visit case properties so that you can get a better idea of the area. Because you would have found out immediately that the staff report has several clear deficiencies. On page 2, the table that was referenced earlier compares limited industrial and central business districts. It leaves out a very key component between the two of them. It doesn't list the differences in parking. So we've got to train our staff. That needs to be in there when you're changing from an LI to a CBD. On page 3, North Oak Street is misreported as having no sidewalks. It's very clear in the photo that the sidewalk goes up to the front door of this business that's there. It would be in the applicant's best interest to continue that sidewalk to go all the way north to the multi-use path that is immediately north of their property. The staff report makes no mentions of trees in the right-of-way. 6 months ago, there were 2 trees in the right-of-way. Now there are a pair of stumps in the right-of-way. Are those going to be replanted? Again, the staff report makes no mention of that. And I have people in my neighborhood who are very sensitive to the destruction of well-established mature trees. It's inappropriate. And lastly, the photo on page 10 that looks west, as she mentioned, that photo is dated and deceptive. It does not show those 2 recently cut substantial tree stumps that are in the right-of-way to the left, to the south of the front door, nor does it show The building that is in the middle of the three properties, or the three buildings, it doesn't show that that building is missing the complete east wall. The wall is gone. And instead you have a private or a construction fence up there. It also does not show that the building on the north end of the property is completely gone. It's been demolished. So I'm not sure what time travel device was used to take a photo where that building still stood, but it's not there. Lastly, and I will show you a picture here in just a little bit of what the site actually looks like today. But lastly, based on the visual evidence, it's obvious that this applicant started this project already. I am baffled that a local construction company seems to treat the planning and permitting process as an afterthought.
Sir, your time's up.
There's what the property looks like today. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, sir.
Are you interested in seeing this or are you ignoring it?
Pardon?
Have you seen this photo?
Have I seen it?
Yeah.
I've seen it now.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else present from the public that would like to speak on this case? If not, we'll call the agent back up. You'll have 2 minutes for rebuttal.
I don't really know where to start on that. The vacation of the right-of-way was approved by the fire department and all interested bodies. The zoning is not relevant to the improvement of buildings by what Hutton tends to do. I have Ms. Taylor here, and she can answer a few questions as to what their plans are, but I will state that zoning really didn't have anything to do with what they are currently doing.
You're going to take the rest of your time, or I can wait until they have questions.
You can take my time.
Sure. I'm Emily Taylor. I'm with Hutton, the applicant, and I can speak to the ongoing construction project. A building permit was awarded a few weeks ago. We submitted that about 6 weeks ago before vacation or any of the rezoning even started. So vacation and rezoning were not necessary to complete the ongoing construction projects. These two spaces before Hutton bought them were previously office buildings, or kind of a mix of office and a little bit of other stuff, and they're going to be office buildings. That's what the permit for the projects that are currently under construction were for. So unifying all of the contiguous Hutton properties to be CBD was the real intent of all of this. And then, like Jay mentioned, fire department access and all of that was maintained through the vacation that came through and was approved by this body a couple weeks ago.
Thank you for your comments. Anything else?
Do you have any other questions for me or Emily?
Mr. Williams, Bay.
Now, did I understand you say that the buildings were going to be removed and a parking lot installed?
No, so this, I gotta use the mouse, yeah. So the building on the south end is already an office space. That project was permitted and built sometime last year. That construction project is complete. It was an interior remodel. They replaced some windows, things like that. The building to the north, the far north structure that was removed was like an aluminum framed shed, didn't even have a slab, not suitable for human occupancy. And it took about 20 seconds to tear down. So that one was removed. There was a separate demolition permit prior to the building permit. So that was probably about 6 weeks ago. And then remodel and construction on the building to the north, like yellow lot line north, that permit was awarded like last week, and so construction's already started. And then in terms of parking, parking was approved for the building permit based on parking study, because Hutton owns all of these properties. The people that are going to work in this building just park over here. The vacation case, people street park here now, and the intent was basically that if Hutton owns it, and again, this is related to the vacation case, not this zoning case, that if Hutton owns it, we can make sure that the parking is in good shape and is safe for employees.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Bring it back to the commission.
Motion to approve for staff recommendations and comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Aldrich, a second by Ms. Fox. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same motion. Motion carries. Okay, we are now down to 4.8. Yes. We still have a majority. All right.
Good afternoon, Christina Reith with planning staff again. This is case number ZON 2024-00013. The applicant is requesting a zone change from TF3 two-family residential district to B multifamily district to allow for multifamily development. The subject site is generally located on the east side of North Lorraine Avenue, within 550 feet north of East 2nd Street North. The subject site is currently vacant. Historic aerial maps show that the site has been vacant since approximately 1983, where a single-family residence previously stood. The requested zone change, should it be approved, would permit more uses than its current zoning. Additionally, it would allow changes to the minimum lot area, minimum lot width, and setback requirements, as you can see in the table in your staff report. However, the Unified Zoning Code requires compatibility standards for side and rear lot lines of properties zoned MF18 or less restrictive when they are within a property 500 feet of a property zoned TF3 or more restrictive. So B is less restrictive than MF18, and everything you see in yellow here on the zoning map is zoned TF3. So the width of the subject site, so I talk a little bit about, what compatibility standards are according to the zoning code. So basically the width of the subject site is 50 feet. So the side and rear setbacks for this particular site are going to be 15 feet. And then for compatibility height standards, since the subject site is 50 feet wide, the maximum height of this is limited to 35 feet. Because normally it would be 55 feet plus 1 foot of additional height for each foot of setback beyond the minimum required setbacks. Because the property abuts residential zoning on the east and west sides, on the north and west sides, it's a typo, I apologize, it will need to provide screening and landscaping. Screening must be installed on the north and west sides of the property. The zoning code requires screening, fences, or walls to be no less than 6 feet and no more than 8 feet in height. And then the Wichita Landscape Ordinance requires 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees for every 500 square feet of required landscape street yard. It also requires landscape buffer trees, which may be comprised of either 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees per 40 lineal feet. And then if they provide more than 20 parking spaces, they are required to do additional landscaping of 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees. And then for parking requirements, the applicant shall provide 1.25 parking spaces per efficiency and 1-bedroom dwelling unit, and 1.75 parking spaces per 2-bedroom or larger dwelling unit. The character of the neighborhood is mostly residential. Properties to the north and west are zoned TF3 and are developed with single-family homes. Property to the south is zoned B and is developed with an apartment complex, which is also owned by the applicant. Property to the east along Hillside here is zoned GO, General Office District, and is developed with a medical office. There are no zoning cases associated with this property. When we look at the conformance to plans and policies, the requested zone change is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The Community Investments Plan's 2035 Future Growth Concept Map recommends a subject site as appropriate for new residential uses. And so by definition within the plan, it's areas of land that will be developed or redeveloped by 2035 with uses predominantly found in the residential category. And when we look at the residential category of the plan, it includes all residential housing types. And so multifamily development is considered an appropriate use within that category. The Community Investment Plan's locational guidelines have a set of development patterns. And one of them is to, quote, support expansion of existing uses to adjacent areas. So there is an apartment complex directly south of the subject site. And, you know, the requested zone change, when I was looking at this, request, so we have the apartment complex here, we have a vacant lot, and then we have a single family house. And when we think about the compatibility standards that go into effect, should the zone change request be approved, that actually restricts a lot of the maximum, maximum setbacks and height that's in your table here. And so, you know, it's staff's opinion that it provides a gradual transition between the single-family zoning to the north and west, and then the multifamily development to the south, and then the commercial development to the east. The requested zone change is in conformance with the Wichita Places for People Plan. The subject site is located within an area of opportunity. And in areas of opportunity where the economic markets are typically limited, small-scale infill and redevelopment projects will define those initial improvements. And the applicant here is proposing an infill project on a vacant lot. And then we have strategies 5 and 6 of the Places for People Plan, which seek to provide a diversity of housing options to attract new residents, to allow existing residents to remain in the established central area, and to encourage infill and redevelopment that is contextual to the environment in which it is occurring. The requested zone change is also in conformance with the Central Northeast Area Plan. One of the priorities outlined in the plan aims to protect the neighborhood fabric by ensuring the rate of new home construction exceeds the housing demolition rate. And so the applicant here is proposing to construct new dwelling units on a lot that has been vacant for over 40 years. Based on the information available prior to the public hearings, planning staff recommends the request be approved. This recommendation is based on the golden rules that are listed in your staff report. At the time the staff report was prepared, we received 3 comments from the public with concerns regarding traffic and parking. I did receive some additional comments that they're concerned about some construction trucks coming in during construction and how that would affect the brick streets in the neighborhood. So those comments are attached to this report. I did receive some additional comment after this report was submitted to you guys, and so I sent that in an email to you guys on Monday, and then I received some additional comment after Monday, and so I printed that out and distributed that to you guys. So feel free to look through that. And with that, let's take a look through some of the site photos. This is looking east towards the site. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site. Next slide, please. This is looking south away from the site. Next slide, please. And this is looking west away from the site. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Mr. Aldridge.
Yeah, Christina, on the North Lorraine Avenue, where it goes north, where it dead ends right there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really tell there's a tree in my way on the plan or the photo. But is that a hammerhead? If not, is that large enough for a fire truck to turn around in, or are there any concerns on that aspect?
So in regards to that question, I have not reached out to fire with that concern. I'm not sure if this is classified as a hammerhead, but that is something to look into.
Yeah, I was just concerned that, not really a relationship to whether or not this is approved or not, but I'm just looking that maybe is something that fire should have addressed a while back.
It'd be difficult for a big truck. They'd have to back out.
Kind of has to do with the nature of Third Street there and the way they terminated that, and they stopped traffic from going all the way through.
Right, I understand that, but I would have thought that city would have at least done something to assist in fire apparatus turning around.
Any other questions of staff? If not, we'll call on the agent or applicant. You'll have 10 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Nathan Farha, 535 North Brookfield here in Wichita. Yeah, so me and a group of partners purchased this property to the south last year. It was a group home of some sort, and we went through and completely renovated it to 24 units, all one-bedroom units. This is an excess piece here that we just looked at as the highest and best use. Is to create kind of a mere building that's about half the size of that to create more units for the property. We'd be fully enclosing this, fencing it in, gating it in. We created access control on both entrances here. We recently raised the site. We were just getting a lot of encampments on that piece of property, people camping in the trees, jumping the fence at night, causing some issues. So we decided to clear it out just to decrease that activity. So yeah, I mean, our goal would be to create kind of a higher end product there that we can do with the rents that we can achieve in the area to kind of complement the College Hill neighborhood to the east and the neighborhood where the subject property lies. Any questions?
We have any questions? Yes, Ms. Foster.
So you said the unit to the south is 24 units and you're going to do a mirror image. So are you contemplating putting 12 units on this 50-foot by?
It'd probably be closer. We haven't done an exact layout, but it'd probably be closer to 8 to 10 units.
And what, they would face south and utilize that drive?
And then we'd add parking in the front.
Okay,
Drive
thank
up
you.
parking.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams Bay.
Are you going to be able to meet your parking requirements?
Yeah, my architect said, depending on how many units we put there, yes, we'd be able to meet that requirement.
Any other questions? I've got a question of staff. So in your recommendation, does for the number of proposed units, is there adequate parking?
I can answer that. Essentially, his density is going to be governed by his parking. Because they own the property to the south and they are unifying the zoning, the whole site could be considered a zoning lot. I don't know how much parking is on his current property, and if that, obviously that would have to meet, but if he has excess parking there, essentially they could share it, but you have to prove that. But either way, density on this new site will be governed by if he can park it. There would have to be a separate action to reduce the parking if he wants to have more units than he can park. Keeping in mind he's going to have to provide screening, a landscape buffer, like there's site design features he's going to have to incorporate, which may reduce his space for a building and parking as well. But the whole complex could be seen together, but that would have to take into the parking requirement for the current building as well as any new dwelling units in a proposed new structure.
Thank you.
Right. And
questions, Mr. Zimbelman?
You might have said this, but I didn't hear very good. Are you planning this to be a fenced community also?
Yeah, we'd basically combine it with the property to the south to create a.
Will you use the same gate for both properties, or will it be a new one?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten that far into it, but I think the approach on our property to the south would be the entrance for this property.
Okay, you're not planning on doing any parking on the street then?
No, I mean, and for leasability, we want to make sure there's enough parking because, you know, if there's not, it's going to be difficult to lease those units.
Any other questions of the applicant? If not, thank you. Is there anyone from the public here that would like to speak on this?
Yes. Who's gonna go? Yeah.
Please approach the podium. Give us your name and address and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name's Keith Boyd and I live at 358 North Lorraine.
My concerns with another apartment complex is traffic on the street and street parking. Just because it's a one residential apartment doesn't mean there's going to be one person living there. So you have multiple cars, which spills out into the street. And it was also noted earlier about street on our parking. I've seen fire trucks go down our street and then they have to back out. There's no way they can turn around. So with more parking in the street can endanger people and their houses and fires. As you know, Lorraine is has a dead end to the north. So the only way out is going south towards 2nd Street. So again, when you're leaving Lorraine, another car's coming. If there's cars, somebody has to stop and back up or move to the side. And noise is another problem. With apartment complex, you hear people talking all hours of the night, leaving and coming. They have a gate on the front which beeps. A lot of the residents in the front can hear that in their homes. I live down the end. I can hear it when I'm outside or I have a window open. So, and that's all I got. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this? Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Gary Hastings at 317 North Lorraine. Zone 2024-13.
Can you use the mouse, please, sir? We're recording this, so we need to use the mouse to point with. Thank you.
Okay, here you go. It's hard to see. I'm gonna look at the picture first. Because this is the lot. They can't go this way. This is the walkway. Sir, we can't hear you. You have to go back to the mic, please. The picture's not clear. You got a fuzzy picture. Oh, I get it. I can look at it here. Okay. Okay, here. Okay, yeah, here's where you're gonna put it. You can't go this way. This is a walkway and a waterway right here. So they have to travel all the way up this street, all the way down. These guys have to go all down here. And this street is already cobbed up. It's got potholes. It has patches. It's destined for doom. The only way they can get out of here is they're gonna come south to either the alleyway. They can get out the alleyway possibly. If they cut, I don't know if they shows the alleyway, but they can cut back here and go behind it and get out this way. See, this road is open up to here, up to the bridge. You can drive that. Right here, you can drive that. But, you know, that's a hard way around here. You can get on the hillside this way, or you can get down here to 2nd Street, you can get out here that way. I've lived there for 48 years and lived the area more years yet. I don't want it changed. I don't want more people living on the block. The cobblestone, the cobblestone apartments is nice, but they beep all night long, like the man says. Well, not all the time. No, the people come and go, and they got to beep to get in. It's a security. It looks nice, but hey, we don't need more people down that street. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, we don't need more street. Yeah, I think I've said about all. Anybody has a question?
Any questions of the speaker? Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this? You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and address, and please try to bring only new information to us. Don't repeat what previous speakers have already covered. Thank you.
My name is Stormy Johnston, and it's spelled with a Y, and it's Johnston, not Johnson. I have too many people make that mistake. I live at 323 North Lorraine, Wichita, Kansas. I have been in my house for about 14 years, and I live by the south gate of the apartment complex that's already built. I can be sitting in the living room, and I hear every time that gate beeps open and closed for each and every person that comes in and out of that lot. It's a high-pitched beep and it hurts my ears. I have sensitive hearing. It is annoying, and if we have more people coming in and out of those gates, it's, they need to do something about that. There was also a time that it beeped, the south gate beeped for around 24 hours. I called in and they finally got it fixed sometime the next afternoon. So I had to deal with that. Again, the brick streets, we've talked about that, the cobblestones. I'm worried that those streets are going to get demolished by bringing in the heavy equipment that they're going to need to dig up the land, to build all the basement stuff, all the flooring and everything. I don't know what else to say, but it would be a problem. We would have too many people that we would have to worry about getting hit by cars. I mean, like the kids. One of our neighbors, her grandkids, great-grandkids come over to visit. The great-grandkids play in the street along with the front yard of their grandmother's place. Who's going to be watching out for them besides the family? I mean, the drivers zoom in and zoom out.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Yes, sir.
Please give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, and
course.
try to just give us new information, please.
Yes, Lori Lawrence, 321 North Lorraine, here in Wichita, and my house is south of this property on the opposite side of the street. I like places for people. Director Wadle had come to my neighborhood association prior to his current position and talked to us about this, and I thought it sounded great. Infill building, I love that concept. My concern is this is a teeny tiny lot. I'm not sure, I don't know how much you're gonna be able to fit on there, Mr. Faha, for one, but when you do the construction, is it possible to require the construction to come off the alley instead of the street? Because that's a nice, hard concrete alley. And that would be easier access, less mud on the street. That might be a way to solve part of the construction issue that we will have while you're building. Please consider that. I don't know if you can make that a condition of their build. Also, places for people meant to me that the design of properties that go into these areas would have to be complementary to the existing neighboring properties. Not necessarily this hotel, which is how it was built for Wesley Hospital, but is now apartments, and thank you for fixing them up. You did a great job. If you can do something about the gate, that would be awesome. It's a cheap gate, and it needs to be, you really need to do something about that. It's bad. But the main concern that I have is what's it gonna look like? And parking, because that's tiny. Keith lives on the same size lot, so does Peaches. That's tiny. It really is. I don't know what you're gonna do, but please make something that looks similar to what you're building into. That's what we would like to see. And if you can at all come in off the alley, that would save these brick streets, because they are 100 years old. And they're valuable to us. There are very few still in the city. I hope that there's a way to make everything happen. I appreciate you listening to me, Mr. Farha. I would love to have your phone number if I can get that when we're done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this? Please give us your name and address and confine your comments to new information. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Kathy Reyes. I live at 323 North Lorraine Avenue. I am directly across the street from the cobblestone. The lights on the cobblestone shine in my house all night long. They never go away. The people from the cobblestone have visitors who park on the street because they don't have any way to park inside the parking lot. They block my driveway. They keep us from getting in and out. And they go too fast on my street. The residents go too fast on my street. Having a new apartment building on a tiny lot that is no bigger than my single family house really, really makes me concerned, because when I moved into this neighborhood, it had a certain character. A new apartment building does not fit that character. It doesn't improve my block at all. It blocks people off from us and keeps us from being able to be a cohesive neighborhood. And we have a very active neighborhood association. We care a lot about our houses, about our people, about our streets, about our trees. I'm not sure I can forgive you for those trees. The neighborhood is very residential with an old-fashioned character, and bringing in even 8 to 10 more cars, which would really be more like 15 to 20 new cars, and bringing in 8 to 10 more families who have blocked themselves off from us and have no access to meet us. We have no way to meet them. It's unfriendly, it's unneighborly. It just makes life worse. It doesn't make it better. It might make it better for people who need to live close to Wesley Hospital, but it doesn't make the neighborhood cohesive. It doesn't make us feel friendly. It doesn't make us feel anything but really told we're not good enough and just left out in the cold. So I can't agree more about the gate. I can't agree more about the parking. I can't agree more about the damage to our brick streets. I dread the thought of heavy construction machinery, because when Mr. Faha, when he renovated the cobblestone, he didn't have to bring in heavy construction machinery. It was already built. He's gonna have to bring in excavators and everything. So I worry about that, but mostly I worry about the fabric of my neighborhood. Thank you.
If there are no other comments, I will ask the applicant to come back, and you'll have 2 minutes rebuttal.
I appreciate you guys being here and your comments. I grew up on 350 South Volusius on the other side of Douglas, and so I'm a native to the area, and we have similar cobblestone streets in our neighborhood as well. So yeah, I mean, our goal would be to keep the fabric of the development within the neighborhood look and keep it within the fabric of the neighborhood. We don't want to do anything that's not going to add to the neighborhood. I've met some of you guys before. I know you for sure, and we want to be friendly neighbors. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be dictated by zoning code and what we can fit on that site, and we don't, plan to try to overcrowd the site. On your comment on getting equipment in, I mean, I think the biggest thing we'll have is a concrete truck for the slabs. And then other than that, it'll probably be bobcats to move dirt. But yeah, if we can fit that clearance on that alleyway, definitely would prefer to use that anyway. So I don't know what the clearance is of a concrete truck but
I don't know what the zoning is either. Are you able to do that?
yeah, I'm not sure of that either. But right now, that's how we access our trash. The big trash truck comes down back, and we put a gate on that alley so we didn't have to come on Lorraine. So we try to keep the trash traffic down over there. So I guess yeah, that'd be all my comments in regard to that. And then the gate sound, I wasn't aware of that, so I'll look into that.
Thank you for your comments, sir. We'll bring it back to the commission now for discussion and action.
I'll have to look into it.
We have any discussion? Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Foster's right. It is public right of way. Whether they can physically do it and make it work, I don't know. It wouldn't be a zoning issue because it is a right of way. it does look to be paved from the aerial, and I know that for commercial purposes, I believe Public Works and Utilities Engineering requires the alley to be paved to be used for access, so I'll leave it at that.
And having been a house builder in very crowded areas, there is very careful monitoring of mud being dragged into the streets. There's a lot of requirements around that. So neighbors have the MABCD number in handy and call if something's going wrong. I'm sure the Farha brothers will be very careful in complying with that. With 19,000 units short in our community for people to live and the ability to build a single family residence being next to impossible for most folks who need a small place to live. I hate that it crowds some of our neighborhoods, but I also realize it's really important. And strong neighborhoods can make the people living in those apartments really feel welcome by including them in the neighborhood, knowing you're paying attention. You can hang out at the front of the gate, visit while they go by. I would like to move that we approve the recommendation per staff comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Fox and a second by Ms. Foster. Discussion, yes.
Are you gonna add, get the gate fixed so it don't squeak?
Yeah, I think we heard Mr. Farr. We just heard Mr. Farr commit to that. I've worked around him on other projects and he follows through when we can get our concerns to him directly. So I don't know that we need to have a motion.
Yes. Scott.
I would also add that Mr. Faha has indicated he's committing to resolving that issue, but it could be a violation of the noise ordinance. So if you want to follow up on that, that would be an alternative for you as well.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I have one more item before we leave. This is Ann Fox's last meeting with us. And Ann has been an absolute asset to the MAPC. She hit the ground running when she came on. She's made significant contributions. She served as chairman of this commission. She's well organized. I didn't know Ann before she came on, but she's my friend now and I'm better for that. Thank you, Ann.
It's an honor to serve, and my commitment has been a very small raindrop in the commitments of people around this table who've served for years and years. I've learned a lot, and thank you for putting up with my comments when they were too wordy or emotional. It's because I care about this community and appreciate all of you that I've gotten to come to know. And the work of the planning staff, which is incredible. Thank you.
Thank you. We are dismissed.